What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 4C Chapter 86. VS Aizen Katetsuwa-san's voice transmission was broken, and Jashiro Yukitaki and Kyoraku Shunsui above were very angry and couldn't believe it, and Yamamoto Laojai's face became very dark, and there was also a layer of terrible ryotsu. Old man, calm down, don't startle the snake. Kurosaki Ichigo said quickly, and Yamamoto Laojai also restrained his ryotsu, but he was still very angry. Seeing this, Kurosaki Ichigo also shook his head helplessly, and Shihouin Yoruichi smiled very funny when he saw this scene, then he looked down. Impossible, is that true, Captain Aizen? Abarai said with a look of shock. The Captain Aizen I know can't possibly do such a thing. Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Aizen and said, Aizen, it looks like there will be people coming here soon, although I know that I can't be your opponent, but how many moves do you think I can support under your hands? Can you support until the captains you were afraid of, Yamamoto Yuanujai and Kurosaki Ichigo, and his 437 came? Want to try it? Aizen looked at Ichigo and smiled and said, I know you defeated Byakuya Kuchiki, but you have not played against me. If you think you can be my opponent, I can be your opponent. After a slight pause, Aizen said, of course, I will carefully control the force. But you have to know that you have to step on the ants without crushing the ants. This force is very difficult to control. Really, thank you. Arisawa Tatsuki smiled and said, although I am just a little ant to you now, but the ants also have the belief to live, so I will not give up. Arisawa Tatsuki said deeply. He took a breath, and then stretched out his right hand to pull out the tinlay from his waist. Just when Arisawa Tatsuki pulled out Zanpakuto from his waist, two figures appeared in front of him. I saw Orihime and Sato blocking Ichigo's face, and Sato's right hand appeared directly with the giant's right arm. Let me come. I will also try my best to protect Long Gui, Orihime also said, and Arisawa Tatsuki said, be careful then. Oh, this kind of power. Aizen looked at Sato's right arm and said, although there is still a lot of power hidden, but your power is more illusory than Shinigami. A lot of good materials. Aizen smiled, then shook his head slightly, but it's a pity, I'm not interested in you right now. Saying that, Aizen once again wanted to put Rukia on Rukia's body and said, can't you put Rukia down, and then step back? In this way, there is no need for too much trouble. I'm sorry. Arisawa Tatsuki pushed Orihime and Sato away slightly and said, Rukia is my comrade. You want us to let go of Rukia before you beat me? It seems a little too simple. Really? Then there is no way. Aizen walked towards Arisawa Tatsuki and the others, and at the same time pulled out Zanpakuto from his waist. Captain Aizen, why do you want to attack Hinamori? She longs for you so much. Abarai Renji said loudly. For you, she will join the Godei 13th Division, in order to be closer to you, so he will train so hard to improve his strength. Advertisement, I know that without me, she won't be able to live. That's how I educated and trained her. Aizen said, don't you think it's my kindness that I kill her? Hey, kind. What a nasty scum. Arisawa Tatsuki said angrily after hearing this. Roar Zabumaru. Abarai Renji directly swung out Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto in his hand turned into Zabumaru in an instant, and then attacked directly towards Aizen. Ichigo's eyes narrowed and he rushed towards Aizen. In an instant, Ichigo's figure appeared in front of Aizen. Holding Tensa Zangetsu in his right hand, he suddenly slashed towards Aizen. Tensa Zangetsu. As for Zabumaru, Aizen grabbed Zabumaru directly another. Zabumaru's long snake body was directly entangled. Impossible. Abarai Renji said in astonishment, to even kill Zabumaru with his bare hands. Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Aizen, holding the tinlay in his right hand, and stabbed at Aizen's abdomen at a direct angle. With a clang sound, Aizen directly broke Zabumaru's snake body, and then pinched tinlay with the fingers of his left hand. Oh, a nice attack. Combined with the speed you just showed, it seems like it wasn't luck that you were able to defeat Byakuya Kuchiki, Aizen said with a smile. Seeing this scene, Arisawa Tatsuki smiled and said, Lei Ying, and there was a burst of thunder and lightning on Zanpakuto, and Aizen Sosuke also released Zanpakuto, but there was a thunderflower on his hand, but because Ryotsu was wrapped around his hand, there was no after being injured. He looked at it and said, what a good Zanpakuto. It can control lightning and change the weather. This is no ordinary Zanpakuto. I didn't come to listen to you, Aizen, and Arisawa Tatsuki saw that he was not injured, but did not lose heart and lifted Zanpakuto and said, thunder, and the sky turned black, and then there was a flash of thunder in the clouds, and look when I got here, Aizen Sosuke said very relaxedly, it's really good. 35 Arisawa Tatsuki was very angry and attacked him when he heard this, but Aizen gave him an easy crotch. Orihime saw Arisawa Tatsuki and Aizen fighting and immediately wanted to step forward, but a terrifying Ryotsu pressed her directly, not to mention seeing Arisawa Tatsuki, she couldn't even move, and except for Orihime herself in addition, there are Ishida, Sato and several others who were all pressed to the ground by this terrifying Ryotsu, and the low-strength Gansu. The four of them sat directly on the ground, and when Arisawa Tatsuki was pressed down by this Ryotsu, he used Zanpakuto to support him. What a terrifying Ryotsu, is this a captain-level Ryotsu? Gansu raised his head slightly and looked at Ichimaru Jin who was standing in front of him and the other group. This kind of terrifying Ryotsu. Arisawa Tatsuki can actually fight with this kind of person. Fighting. Arisawa Tatsuki got up and took a look at Ichimaru Jin, then said, Orihime, Sato, Ishida, Gansu, just stay where you are, just leave it to me here. After that, Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Aizen deeply. He took a breath, holding a knife in both hands, and then rushed towards Aizen again and chopped it down suddenly, with a dang. Aizen once again used Zanpakuto to hold Zanpakuto in Ichigo's hand, but Ichigo didn't stop at all. When the attack was blocked, the figure instantly disappeared in front of Aizen, then appeared behind Aizen, grabbed Zanpakuto with his left hand, and stabbed towards the back of Aizen's heart. With the sound of chang, Aizen's two fingers were pinched for a moment, and at the same time Arisawa Tatsuki felt a force coming from the sky thunder in his hand, and Arisawa Tatsuki felt that the sky thunder was directly separated from Aizen's Zanpakuto, and Arisawa Tatsuki was shocked. Immediately wanted to step back, but the figure was stunned, because Aizen's left hand was holding the tinlay. But then Arisawa Tatsuki's entire figure rushed out, because 1.4 Aizen had released the tinlay. Arisawa Tatsuki's whole body facing Aizen, she flew upside down, but with a sudden, poochie, sound. Arisawa Tatsuki, who was still in midair, suddenly spewed a lot of blood from her waist and fell directly to the ground. Damn. Arisawa Tatsuki clutched the wound on his waist, blood was pouring out continuously. Arisawa Tatsuki wanted to get up, but he kept shouting, Dragon Gui. Rukia, but she found a darkness in front of her, in front of him. A figure was standing in front of him. Rukia raised his head slightly and saw Aizen standing in front of him. Rukia stretched out his hand and hugged Abarai Renji, but Abarai Renji did not respond at all. Rukia slightly raising his head, with a puff, Abarai Renji's chest suddenly spurted a column of blood, and then Abarai Renji fell directly to the ground, while Aizen grabbed the collar on Rukia's neck and lifted Rukia up. Chapter 87. Exposure. And Jashiro Yukitaki, who was watching in the sky, was stopped by me when he was about to shoot because Rukia Kuchiki was caught. I grabbed his hand and stopped him from acting rashly, and then he said, Why? It's all right, trust me, just wait a while. After he finished speaking, he looked at Kyoraku Shunsui and Yamamoto Uenlaojai, and they nodded, and Jashiro 14 also nodded when he saw this. Then I gave a sigh of relief and said, Really, I almost got screwed by you guys. 33. Then Kyoraku Shunsui said very easily, It's nothing. Even if it was discovered, it wouldn't hurt anyway, wouldn't it? Hearing Kurosaki Ichigo say, This is something that can prove Aizen Sosuke, and it's also very interesting, isn't it? Shihouin nodded helplessly when he heard this. Because she always wanted to get Aizen Sosuke out, but since Kurosaki Ichigo wanted to keep him, Shihouin Yoruichi hasn't gotten rid of him until now. And when I saw her face, I knew what she was thinking. Then I came to Shihouin Yoruichi and squeezed her hand and said, Sooner or later, he will kill him. And upon hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi nodded to me too. Arisawa Tatsuki on the bipolar has no strength, and Aizen carried Rukia Kuchiki and walked a little far away from Arisawa Tatsuki and them. He took out something like a pen, and when he pressed his hand, it changed. It's like a plant. Aizen raised the Rukia in his hand and said, Don't be afraid, I'll be able to take it out soon. Saying that, the completely planted right hand stretched out towards Rukia's chest, but before it touched Rukia's chest, I saw 26 waves of fluctuations in Rukia's chest, and immediately opened a hole. Aizen smiled slightly and stretched his hand in, and quickly pulled his hand back. When Aizen's hand was pulled back, Rukia's chest opened. The hole that came out disappeared automatically, and Aizen glanced at Rukia and said, So it doesn't cause any damage to the soul, it's a really good technique. At this time, Aizen's right hand also recovered from the vegetative state. Aizen released his right hand that clenched his fist. In his right hand, a round jewel emitting blue light was lying quietly in his palm. This is Hōgyoku. Aizen said, It's pretty much what I expected. Aizen lifted Rukia directly. You're useless, Yin, you've come to kill her. There's no other way, just shoot him Shinso. Ichimaru Jin took out his Zanpakuto and pointed it at Rukia suddenly. A cold light flashed, and it shot directly at Rukia in Aizen's hand with a poochie sound. The blade pierced into the body of the human body, and Aizen's hand was empty, and a blade was lying in front of Aizen. Big brother. Rukia looked at the man who was suffocating her and said in astonishment. She couldn't believe that it was her righteous brother, the captain of the 6th Division, the head of the Kuchiki family, Byakuya Kuchiki, who came to save her. Big brother, why did you come to save me? Big brother. Rukia looked at Byakuya Kuchiki in disbelief. Byakuya Kuchiki was stabbed in the left chest by Ichimaru Jin's Shinso, but fortunately, Shinso did not pierce Byakuya Kuchiki's body, so although he was stabbed in the chest, it did not hurt the heart or lungs. I'm sorry, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin squinted and pulled Shinso back. I didn't expect someone to rush out from the side. It doesn't matter, Yin, because I didn't pay attention, so he took Rukia away. Aizen said, but it doesn't matter, it's the same when we kill them now. Advertisement. 2 figures of Shu Shu appeared beside Aizen, and in an instant, the 2 figures grabbed one of Aizen's hands, and at the same time put a short sword in Aizen's neck. Good job, Broken Bee. Yoruichi grabbed Aizen's arm and said to Broken Bee beside Aizen. On the other hand, Broken Bee still had a serious expression on his face. He held a short sword tightly in his right hand, and the short sword was crossed in Aizen's neck. If Aizen had any changes, Broken Bee would immediately attack. But when she heard Yoruichi's words, it was obvious that there was a hint of shame in her eyes. It's such a nostalgic face, Aizen said, looking at Yoruichi beside him. Don't act rashly, Yoruichi said. Otherwise, I'll cut off your head immediately, Broken Bee said. Allah, Captain Aizen, you seem to be caught, do you need me to save you? Ichimaru Jin said, and while speaking, Ichimaru Jin directly pulled out Zanpakuto from the potion in his hand, and said in a low voice, shoot to kill. But at this time, a huge figure fell in the sky, and there was a loud boom, and dust filled the entire sky. Allah, it seems that we are late, and there is no place to shoot. A pleasant voice, a female voice sounded, and then the dust dispersed. Shiba Kong was standing on the shoulders of Sadanfong, and said with a smile. Just as Ichimaru Jin was about to speak, a hand grabbed his right hand and a knife was placed in Ichimaru Jin's neck. Don't move. Matsumoto Rangaku looked at Ichimaru Jin in front of him and said, otherwise I'll have to follow the orders. I'm sorry, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin's expression didn't change in the slightest, he still squinted and said, I got caught, 99. Captain, can you please stay still for the time being? Hisagi Shuhei appeared behind Tusen Kanami with Zanpakuto in his hand across Tusen Kanami's neck. Yoruichi looked at Aizen and said, okay, in this case, your people are all caught, you have nowhere to run, now give me what you got from Rukia, 39. Haha. Aizen laughed softly. What's so funny? Yoruichi looked at Aizen's smile, and a trace of extreme unease flashed in his heart, but Yoruichi didn't say it directly, and gently buried it in his heart. After all, this is just Yoruichi's personal feeling. Aizen didn't answer Yoruichi's question, just smiled lightly, and at this moment, he heard the sound of shoo shoo shoo, and saw other captains and vice-captains, such as Jashiro Yukitaki, Kiraku Shunsui, even 10 Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni, the main team of the 3rd Division, also appeared. Finally even Kurosaki Ichigo appeared next to Aizen Sosuke, and I looked at Shihouin Yoruichi and said, seriously, don't be so anxious, he can't run anyway. Advertisement, I'm sorry, I wanted to catch him too much, so I saw the action of Shihouin Yoruichi and acted without authorization. Shihouin Yoruichi said apologetically, and Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy after hearing that, because Shihouin Yoruichi was for her she just acted, so that means Shihouin Yoruichi doesn't care if she doesn't. Since you already know my purpose, why don't you just come and catch me? Aizen said to Kurosaki Ichigo, but Kurosaki Ichigo lip-synced to him without saying a word. The game can't be over before it starts. And Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni looked at Aizen and said, Aizen Sosuke, looking at your appearance, it seems to be exactly the same as the voice transmitted by Katetsu Izan. Don't say that, Captain Chief. Aizen said, you know, I killed all those idiots in Central 46, this should be very beneficial to you. As for this thing in my hand, you should not be interested. That gem. Jashiro Yukitaki looked at Hōgyoku in Aizen's hands and said with some doubts. Hōgyoku. Aizen said, then looked at Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni and Kurosaki Ichigo. Master Chief, as Shinigami, there are 4 fighting skills, swordsmanship, footwork, Kido and white hits, but no matter which one is all items are limited by the soul. There is a so-called limit. Once the limit is reached, it is difficult to improve. Just like you can only rely on the accumulation of years to continuously strengthen Ryotsu to increase the power of skills, but this speed is really. It's too slow, I don't have the patience to wait. The Hōgyoku in my hand was made by Urahara Kazuki 437 more than 100 years ago. Of course, I also made a Hōgyoku, the two of us thought of it together, but later I found out that he was also making Hōgyoku. I fused the 2 pieces of Hōgyoku, and finally Urahara Kazuki made this Hōgyoku. Just 100 years ago Urahara Kazuki Northview kicked out the Soul Society. The same, this piece of Hōgyoku also disappeared, but I didn't know until recently that it was hidden in Rukia's Soul. 39. With that guy Urahara? Jashiro Yukitaki asked, then what is Hōgyoku's ability? Break the boundary between Hollow and Shinigami. To put it bluntly, let Shinigami hollow and make Hollow Shinigami. Aizen said, in other words, let the power of Shinigami and Hollow appear in the same person. What? Jashiro Yukitaki was slightly startled, and the group looked at each other. At this time, Aizen said again. Do you know why I will tell you everything? Because it's time. Yoruichi immediately shouted, Bro, leave. Regarding Yoruichi's flower, Shobi didn't even think about retreating directly, but Ichimaru Jin suddenly slammed his shoulder back and knocked Matsumoto Rangaku away. Hisagi Shuhei was bounced off by the yellow light curtain that fell from the sky and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a while. The yellow light curtain directly wrapped the 3 people. It's a pity, it would be nice if I could let you hold it longer. Ichimaru Jin turned his head slightly and looked at Matsumoto Rangaku, lowering his voice to a volume that only 2 people could hear. I'm sorry, Rangaku. 99. At this time, 2 pale arms suddenly stretched out in the sky, and then the whole sky was pulled apart. Then dozens of Manos Grande stuck out their heads or stretched out their arms from this open space. It was Manos Grande Jillian, and they were so densely packed that it was impossible to see how many there were. Figure, but couldn't see what it was. With a loud boom, I saw Aizen, Ichimaru Jin, Tusen Kanami float up together with the rocks under their feet. Chapter 88. Aizen escapes. Do you want to escape? Tezaemon, the shooting range, watched Aizen and the three of them slowly lift off, tightening Zanpakuto in his hands. Stop it, it's useless. Chief Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni looked at Aizen and said, the light curtain around them is called negation, which is the skill Manos Grande used to save his own clan behind him. The inside and outside of negation are completely separated, we can't hurt him, it's like we are in two spaces. So once negation appears, then everything is over, and this, everyone who fought Manos Grande was there, clear. Tucson, you got down here, didn't you tell me that you became a Shinigami for the sake of being a good friend? Didn't you become a Shinigami to maintain justice? Didn't you train hard to gain more power for the sake of peace? Komamura Sajin looked at Tucson Kanami who was slowly rising and shouted loudly. I don't understand why you, who keep insisting on upholding justice, are going this way. Where does the justice you want to implement disappear to, already? That's right, Komamura. Tucson Kanami said, I want the power to achieve peace, and if justice alone is not enough, I am willing to be that which is called justice. Then I will dispel all evil in the world like clouds. So my eyes reflect the road that is not full of blood, justice exists here, and the road I take is justice. Tucson, Komamura Sajin growled loudly. Why do you want to join forces with Manos Grande? Or is it that you have fallen too, Aizen? Jashiro stepped forward and stood in front of negation and looked up at Aizen. You are too arrogant, Jashiro. Aizen looked down at Jashiro and said, in order to pursue a higher realm, from the very beginning, neither you nor me, even God could stand in the sky. He took off his glasses and brushed his hair with his left hand, but then, I will stand in the sky. Aizen's hair was pulled back, leaving only one strand hanging in front of him. And Aizen Sosuke looked at me and smiled, and then disappeared, but I saw him looking at me like he was looking at someone like me, and then I smiled and thought, I am not with you, oh same. What did you say to Aizen just now? Shihouin Yoruichi saw it when she grabbed Aizen Sosuke just now, but she didn't pay much attention either, because all her attention was on Aizen, and I. Also it's nothing, it means that the game is about to start. After speaking, he nodded helplessly to her, and then thought to himself, did I get the wrong script? So that's how it is, let's go and see them. Then he pulled me towards Arisawa Tatsuki and them. While Arisawa Tatsuki was being healed by Inoue Orihime's ability, he saw the person who came and said, I'm sorry Ichigo, let you down. And Yasutora and Ishida Yulong also bowed their heads, because they didn't work, and then I said, why didn't you use it, your usefulness is great. Because of you Aizen Sosuke is in trouble for his own plan. Kurosaki Ichigo lied to comfort them, because Aizen Sosuke can run his plan smoothly because of their intrusion, not theirs the indiscriminate entry was stopped, but they were all right, so that's what I said. Advertisement after they heard it, they recovered some spirits, and then Arisawa Tatsuki said, although it is so, it is not a failure in the end. After that, they lost their spirits again. Then I laughed, don't underestimate him, he is very powerful. Even in Jingling Ting, there are only 2 people who are sure to resist the current Aizen, not to mention that there are 2 captain-level figures who are helping him. It is reasonable that you can't defeat him. And they were relieved after hearing this. There are only 2 people who can block him here, and it is common sense that they can't fight. They pointed these 2 people directly at Yamamoto Yuanlaojai and Kurosaki Ichigo. And Kurosaki Ichigo I'm talking about Yamamoto Yuanlaojai and Uziwali, and the Shinigami of Soul Society in Lingwang Palace. It can be said that they are all super captain level characters. I must become stronger, Arisawa Tatsuki said firmly, and Ishida Yuryu and Shadow Yasutora are also very firm. Even Inoue Orihime said, I will become stronger, and then protect Ryugui. Hear this Arisawa Tatsuki touched her forehead and said, really, don't be brave. 55 Inoue Orihime puffed out his mouth in dissatisfaction and slapped Arisawa Tatsuki, and Arisawa Tatsuki was hurt because he was injured. Seeing this, Inoue Orihime quickly said, I'm sorry, and then opened his hands and said, Shao Chongshin Sakura, the 2 heavens return to the shield, I refuse. In an instant, a yellow light curtain appeared on Ichigo's body, shining on Ichigo's body. On his body, the blood on Ichigo's body began to decrease in an instant and soon stopped. At this time, a Shinigami with yellow hair and glasses rushed into Bipolar Hill with a large number of Shinigami. He glanced around and immediately stepped forward to face Yamamoto Yuanyujaiju National Highway, i.e., the 3rd seat of the 4th Division. Village Yachichi and Unohana are leading the medical team on the orders of the captain. Okay, immediately treat all the injured people. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni said, then looked at Ichigo and the others and said, and those little ghosts, although they broke into the Jingling Court, but because of the intrusion made Aizen's plan deviated, no matter what their purpose was, what they did in this incident helped the Soul Society, they are kind to the Soul Society, and I don't want them to be killed or injured because of it. Yes, Commander-in-Chief. I.e. Village Yachichika replied loudly, and then began to give orders to the 4th Division Shinigami on him. Then Yamamoto Yuanyuzai Shigekuni said loudly, cancel the sentence against Rukia Kuchiki. This sentence is an order issued by Soul Society traitor Aizen Sosuke after killing the Sage of Central 46, so the sentence is invalid, and Rukia Kuchiki will the power of Shinigami was passed on to this human imp, but because of the help of this human imp, I declare that Rukia Kuchiki's felony is cancelled. Thank you, Captain. Rukia looked at Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni and said. Arisawa Tatsuki also said at the same time, thank you, old man. I knew you were not that unreasonable. Advertisement, don't be too self-righteous. Kid. Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni said. I just don't want someone to die because of a traitor. In the end, when you guys are healed, get me back to this world. Saying Yamamoto Yuan Luze Jongwo disappeared immediately. Rukia. Byakuya Kuchiki was lying on the ground. He was badly wounded in the battle with Ichigo, and was hit by Shinso of Ichimaru Jin. He was treated, but it was a pity that Byakuya Kuchiki's injury was too serious, completely beyond their ability, so it was impossible to completely heal Byakuya Kuchiki's injury. Big brother. Rukia immediately stepped forward when she heard Byakuya Kuchiki's call. I'm sorry, Rukia. Byakuya Kuchiki said, do you know why I brought you into Kuchiki's house as a younger sister? At this time, Yunohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th Division, was rushing over in her Minazuki. After that, Byakuya told her the old things that she had kept hidden for more than 50 years, and Byakuya also told the whole story. Rukia was Byakuya's wife Feijun's sister. Feijun abandoned her when Rukia was young, and later married her. After giving it to Byakuya, I regretted it very much, and finally died of a disease. Before dying, I asked Byakuya to find his sister. At the time of Feijun's death, let Byakuya find Rukia, don't tell Rukia that he is her sister, and then adopt Rukia as a brother. Byakuya agreed, and has kept this promise until now. After Byakuya Kuchiki finished speaking, he also fainted, and, how good Zhao, Rukia Kuchiki came to Byakuya Kuchiki very nervously and shouted, Big brother. Big brother, but there was no response, and then the egg flower came to say, it's okay, I just passed out. Rukia Kuchiki was very happy to hear that he found the center bone. On Kurosaki Ichigo's side, Shihouin Yoruichi hugged my arm and said to her, Sora, why are you here? I just wanted to go out for a walk, so I came here unknowingly. Shiba Sora Crane said it very easily, and Kurosaki Ichigo thought helplessly after hearing it. Are you going for a walk, but go shopping? Do you think Jinglinting is your home? Take a walk. Of course Shiba Sora didn't know what Kurosaki Ichigo was thinking, otherwise he would have to fight Kurosaki Ichigo again. But, Ichigo, did you speak ill of me? Shiba Sora looked at me suspiciously, and I was very surprised that a woman's sixth sense is so accurate. How could it be? I won't do this, and then Kurosaki Ichigo quickly denied it, making Shiba Kuzuru even more suspicious, while Shihouin Yoruichi stepped forward and took Shiba Kuzuru's hand and said, okay, don't think about that, let's go together. Let's go out for a walk, and then we went outside together, and Kurosaki Ichigo also gave a sigh of relief. Advertisement Chapter 89. After the war a week later, at the 11th Division Dojo, with a bang, a Shinigami was knocked out, and Madarame Mikaku, who was naked, raised the wooden sword in his hand and looked at the Shinigami around him and said, then who's next? The surrounding Shinigami hesitated, looking at the other people. Although the 11th team is a fighting team, everyone likes fighting very much, but it does not mean that they like to be abused. As the third seed of the 11th team, Madarame Mikaku's strength is the strongest except for the captain and vice-captain. Of course, they are not interested in looking for abuse. Then he went on to say, hey, what's wrong with you? No one came. You idiots, and they were indifferent when they heard this. There's really no way, then I'll come first for the time being. Arisawa Tatsuki walked in and said, then put Tinlei aside and picked up a wooden sword. You're very brave. Long Gui. Madarame Mikaku looked at Arisawa Tatsuki who was holding the wooden sword and said, it's good. But I won't be merciful just because you are recovering from a serious illness. Arisawa Tatsuki raised his hand holding the wooden sword and said, both of us are recovering from a serious illness. Besides, I'm not sick, I'm just injured. It's the same, it can be said that the injury has just recovered from a serious illness. Madarame Mikaku roared loudly. No one would say that. Arisawa Tatsuki retorted. Madarame Mikaku said, then what is the healing of the injury, tell me, and Arisawa Tatsuki. That is. Don't know, I don't know how to answer. Ah. Look. You don't know either, go back and learn Mandarin again, stupid, and Arisawa Tatsuki was also angry. What, you are just shaved and your mind is empty. Madarame Mikaku was very angry and tightened the wooden knife and raised it to chop at Arisawa Tatsuki. Okay, I understand, then the one who wins is the right one, what do you think? And Arisawa Tatsuki also rushed towards him said, okay, come on, I'll let you know how my best Mandarin is. What, it's very lively here. The door of the dojo opened, and Zaraki Kenpachi walked in. Of course, on his shoulders, Kusajishi Yachiru is always lying on it, and with a smack, the wooden swords of Arisawa Tatsuki and Madarame Mikaku collided, and all the 11th team members around him bowed to Zaraki Kenpachi salute. See Captain, Vice Captain. Oh, isn't that Arisawa Tatsuki? It looks like your injury is completely healed. Zaraki Kenpachi said, looking at Ichigo. Good morning, little dragon. Kusajishi Yachiru said with a cute smile. Oh, it's Kenpachi. Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, raised his hand slightly and said, thanks to you, everything is fine. A cold light shot towards Ichigo, cutting off the wooden sword in Arisawa Tatsuki's hand in an instant. Arisawa Tatsuki was slightly taken aback, and Zaraki Kenpachi opened the mouth and said, since the injury is healed, then I can have a good fight with you without any scruples. After saying that, he cut him down. There was a loud bang, and a large hole was directly cut out of the ground in front of Zaraki Kenpachi, and a figure lay inside, Zaraki Kenpachi said in disappointment. Advertisement. It's really useless. Arisawa Tatsuki, don't you say that you have no fighting power without Zanpakuto? Forget it, let's give you Zanpakuto first. After saying that, Zaraki Kenpachi turned his head and went to take the thunder that Arisawa Tatsuki had put aside. It's just that he turned his head and didn't find Arisawa Tatsuki's Zanpakuto. Xiaojian, Xiaolong is about to escape, Kusajishi Yachiru said, pointing out the window. I saw outside the window. Arisawa Tatsuki hurried away with Tinlay in his hand. Zaraki Kenpachi was slightly taken aback, looked at the big hole on the ground, and saw Madarei Mikaku lying half dead inside, murmuring. Arisawa Tatsuki, I remember you, and Zaraki Kenpachi said. You, Arisawa Tatsuki, what are you running away from? Stop for me. Arisawa Tatsuki had already run away, of course Zaraki Kenpachi and Kusajishi Yachiru chased after them, but Arisawa Tatsuki had already disappeared in front of their eyes, so according to this two super invincible big road idiots, I am afraid that even if they look for 10 days and 10 nights, they will not be able to find them. Of course, the premise is that Arisawa Tatsuki does not take the initiative to reveal his Ryatsu. And why Zaraki Kenpachi is no longer obsessed with Kurosaki Ichigo. That's because he doesn't want to seek abuse, and every time he is abused by Kurosaki Ichigo in various ways, he will question his life. And Arisawa Tatsuki is because of this time a lot of things were gained in the battle on the bipolar, so Arisawa Tatsuki's strength has also become a captain level. And Zaraki Kenpachi who saw here attacked Arisawa Tatsuki directly, and in the end Arisawa Tatsuki and Zaraki Kenpachi were both lost. Of course Zaraki Kenpachi didn't use all his strength, but then Zaraki Kenpachi caught up with Arisawa Tatsuki. I looked for her every day, and after finding her, it was a fight, so Arisawa Tatsuki was afraid of him. On the other side, Ishida held a sleeveless vest and handed it to Sato. Sato, I've already given you your clothes. After returning to the world, the Death Tyrant outfit can't be passed on. Sato took the vest and looked at him. The cross symbol on the vest was slightly tangled, but he didn't say much because he found it useless. And Ishida handed another piece of clothes to Orihime and said, I also mended Inoe's clothes, so there is no need for the same color thread, so I can't get it up with other color threads, and then outside, it was decorated with lace of the same color, and the other side was decorated with 2 small flowers. Oh, so cute, Orihime said excitedly. Ishida took out another 8-color dress and said, speaking of which, I also made a dress for Kuchiki-san, based on the size of the uniform left in this world, but maybe. It's so pretty, I'll go get it for her. Orihime picked up the CGBE dress in Ishida's hand and left with a look of excitement. Ishida shrugged slightly and didn't care too much. It's so beautiful, Ishida is really amazing, he can make such beautiful clothes. Orihime looked at the skirt in his hand with a hint of envy, and then said with a hint of doubt. But why did Ishida make such beautiful clothes for Kuchiki-san? What about his clothes? Could it be? 35 Orihime read a sentence, and then nodded slightly. So that's the case. I was so amazing that I was able to guess. Here again, I am speechless for Orihime's unique brain structure. On the other side, outside the jingling garden, Kurosaki Ichigo, Shihouin Yoruichi and Shiba Sora are sitting on the grass and drinking on the grassland. Ichigo, are you going back soon? Shiba Sora asked me. I said, that's right, I'm going back. I can't stay here forever, can't I? After hearing this, I nodded and said, that's right. And Shihouin Yoruichi kept looking at Shiba Sora, and then said, what's the matter? Are you very reluctant? Yeah, I'm sorry. Shiba Sora admitted it straight away. Shihouin Yoruichi continued, is it a shame for me or Ichigo? 95 and then looked at her jokingly, and I choked when I heard it, so I coughed a few times, and Shiba Sora's face turned red when he heard it, and Shihouin Yoruichi. Look, you're all blushing. Isn't it just reluctant to Ichigo? And I also coughed and said, don't make trouble, now, Yoruichi. Why? Don't you feel distressed? Then the conversation changed. I'm really struggling, even my man is not helping me anymore, and then he was very angry and hammered me, and I was very helpless. Shiba Sora just lowered his head. Advertisement. Seeing that Shihouin Yoruichi was still making fun of Shiba Sora, I said, okay, don't make fun of it, I'll be joking. Then after I said that, Shiba Sora was a little lost, but he recovered immediately. I didn't see these Kurosaki Ichigo, but Shihouin Yoruichi kept them in sight, and after a few of us sat down for a while, Shiba Gansu came over, and came with Rukia Kuchiki. Rukia in a kimono was standing in front of a hot mature woman, eldest sister, she is the Shinigami that Long Gui and the others desperately rescued. Shiba Gansu said immediately, he was afraid that his eldest sister would kill this guy, because even I can remember this guy's face, so Shiba Sora, who is the eldest sister, is even less likely to forget it. I know, she was the one who killed the eldest brother back then, Shiba Sora said, I've known since Kurosaki Ichigo and the others stepped into the Soul Society, so I'll help them, because if she dies. I'm sorry. Rukia bowed deeply, I should have come a long time ago, but I was too timid to come to face you, so I kept delaying until today. I'm sorry. Okay, needless to say. Shiba Kong waved his hand and said, I have already heard about the incident from Jashiro, and no one did anything wrong, including the one who killed the eldest brother, so I am right. It has been decided, and when you come to apologize, I will forgive you. Really, I'm sorry. Rukia lowered her head slightly. Okay, no need to apologize. By the way, do you want a drink? Shihouin said with a smile. Rukia lowered her head slightly and said hesitantly, this, isn't it? With a bang, Shihouin grabbed Rukia's head and said, didn't I say, don't apologize? There are still the same words, don't make me say it twice. Yes, that bothers her. Rukia held her head and sorted out the companions who were messed up by Shiba Kusaku, because Shiba Kusuru's actions reminded her of Shiba Kaien's treatment to her when she first joined the 13th Division. Move. Okay. Shiba Sora said loudly, Gansu, you're not going to prepare wine and dinner yet. Yes, eldest sister, Ganju responded immediately, and then ran away desperately, but just as he started, Shihouin said, by the way, Ganju, the special training process that is behind today will be made up tomorrow. Ganju fell directly to the ground. He didn't expect that under such circumstances, his eldest sister still remembered the special training, which made Ganju want to cry without tears. Chapter 90. Back and not long after Shiba Gansu left, Arisawa Tatsuki and Inoue Orihime came to find them, and they were very happy to see that Rukia Kuchiki was forgiven. Then Rukia Kuchiki came to me and bowed in front of me and said, thank you, then waved his hand helplessly and said, don't do this, I can't stand it. Rukia Kuchiki was stunned when she heard this, and Shihouin Yoruichi made a clearance and said, it's okay, it's a small matter for him, so don't be so out of touch. Rukia Kuchiki recovered after hearing Shihouin Yoruichi's words, and then laughed with Arisawa Tatsuki and the others. And Shiba Kong also looked at me at this time and said, you have already solved everything, so what are you going to do next? The two of us are going to travel around the world next, Kurosaki Ichigo said firmly while holding Shihouin Yoruichi, while Shiba Sora was surprised when he heard it, and Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also heard it. Arisawa Tatsuki and the others let out their voices in surprise. What's the surprise? Kurosaki Ichigo said helplessly, if Ichigo and Yoruichi go on a trip, what will Aizen do? Arisawa Tatsuki asked very puzzled, and Ishida Yulong and the others also nodded. Seeing this, I smiled and said, don't leave everything to others to solve, learn to be self-sufficient, understand? It is true that Kurosaki Ichigo is right, you can't leave everything to others to solve, even your own affairs are not waste. At this moment Arisawa Tatsuki thought a lot of things, and finally bowed after a bow and then also, go back. I didn't expect that you still have the ability to teach others. Shihouin Yoruichi teased me, and Shiba Sora went down to prepare the banquet while Kurosaki Ichigo and Arisawa Tatsuki were talking. She touched her buttocks and said, look, you dared to tease me. After that, Shihouin Yoruichi got angry, but she was very shy, and when I saw it, she said, it's all old man. Old wife, don't be so shy. Then she hugged and kissed, and although Shihouin Yoruichi was shaking in Kurosaki Ichigo's arms, she was quiet with Kurosaki Ichigo's kiss. As for Arisawa Tatsuki and the others, they all looked back at us both because of Shihouin Yoruichi's sudden silence, and they all hurriedly turned their heads away, and the latter one was very shy, especially Arisawa Tatsuki. Then Arisawa Tatsuki thought, is it really that good? Should I find one too? Then I quickly got rid of the idea. Then I looked at them and said, are you still very young? After saying that, I picked up Shihouin Yoruichi in the princess's arms, and then walked away, and seeing Yulong Ishida here, he was very puzzled and approached Shiba Sora. Crane asked, where did they go? Didn't the two of them tell you? Shiba Sora asked back, while Ishida Yuryu shook his head blankly, and then Shiba Sora told Arisawa Tatsuki and the others, then Inoue Orihime said, if we leave, then how do I get back? Shiba Sora knocked on the head of Inoue Orihime. Don't worry about them both. They must have their own ideas, so take care of yourself. Arisawa Tatsuki, who was about to ask a question here, also said not talking anymore. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little off, Shiba Sora said, don't worry about that, let's have a party now. Then Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also raised their spirits to participate. Advertisement. It was getting dark, and Arisawa Tatsuki and the others came to the last night of Soul Society. They had a good night. And Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi went to other places, because they stayed with Kurosaki Ichigo for a long time. Even Shihouin Yoruichi likes to go outside. So Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi went directly to the Soul Society tour now. It is easy for Kurosaki Ichigo to leave the Soul Society. With his current strength, he can easily use his own strength to open up the black cavity and then go to the world. So Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi travel with peace of mind went. The sky was bright, Bipolar Hill, Longwei, Sato, Ishida, Orihime, and their group were standing in front of a door. Jashiro opened his mouth and said, this is the gate of crossing the realm. Of course, I also joined the spiritual converter, so that you can return as safely as you came. Then Jashiro took out a wooden sign from his body. A skull pattern. Jashiro handed this thing to Arisawa Tatsuki and said, this is the Shinigami proxy card. This is already the practice when a new generation of Shinigami proxy appears, and then the Soul Society decides that it is beneficial to the Soul Society, then I will issue this Shinigami agent certificate. Thank you, but to hear what you mean, that is, besides me, is there any other Shinigami agent? Is it Ichigo? Arisawa Tatsuki thanked him and took the Shinigami agent preached in Jashiro's book. That's right, but it's not Kurosaki Ichigo, Jashiro said, but he didn't say much about it, but continued. Of course, Arisawa Tatsuki, This thing doesn't express our gratitude to you, but we don't know what should I give you, as long as you need it in the future, just tell me. Originally, Jashiro Yukitake and Kyoraku Shunsui went to find Kurosaki Ichigo, and then gave it to Kurosaki Ichigo, but Kurosaki Ichigo threw it back, so it didn't work. That's it. Isn't it Ichigo? Then who is it? Arisawa Tatsuki asked suspiciously, but Jashiro Yukitake also perfunctory, and then said, if you need it, you can tell us. No need. Arisawa Tatsuki shook his head slightly and said, I just want to rescue Rukia. I haven't thought about other things, so you don't need to think about it. I'm very satisfied to get this. Arisawa Tatsuki raised his hand the proxy card, and then tied the proxy card around his waist. Thank you, Jashiro said. Kuchiki-kun. Orihime came to Rukia, and with empty hands, he took out a dress and handed it to Rukia. Please accept this, Kuchiki-kun. Then Orihime whispered close to Rukia's ear. This is what Ishida, personally, did for you. Orihime deliberately emphasized the word, personally, so that Rukia could hear a special meaning, but unfortunately, Rukia lives in the Soul Society all the year round, and it is not enough to enter the world. In just a few months, she didn't understand this kind of suggestion at all. For flowers. Oh, is it? Rukia was taken aback for a moment and then replied casually, thank you. You can't do this, Kuchiki-san. Orihime immediately pressed his mouth and said, although you decided to stay in Soul Society, you must wear it for Ishida to see if you have a chance in the future. Advertisement, oh. Rukia, who was suppressed by Orihime's aura, could only nod in response. Okay, let's go, Arisawa Tatsuki said. Following Arisawa Tatsuki's opening, the gate in front of him suddenly lit up, and Long Gui and his group began to head towards the gate. Because this gate was officially opened by the Soul Society, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others were not in a hurry. Thank you, Long Gui, and say thank you to Kurosaki Ichigo for me, Rukia said slightly, looking behind Arisawa Tatsuki. Arisawa Tatsuki smiled lightly, nodded, and waved his hand slightly over his head. Then the group directly entered the gate of crossing the world. Zero in the broken world. Arisawa Tatsuki and the others are running back desperately, and behind them, Kutu is constantly chasing them. Why do we have to be detained and chased again? This time it's clearly the gate that was officially opened by the Soul Society, Ishida complained as he ran. This is not the time to talk about this, Chadu Yasutora said. Let's start running faster. Look, the exit is right in front of the group. Now. Damn, I can't use Ryatsu in the face of Kutu. Arisawa Tatsuki said. Kutu is very close. Hurry up, Arisawa Tatsuki shouted loudly, and the group of four suddenly rushed out. Just rushing out, several people blinked their eyes slightly, and then several people fell at the same time. Boom, a cannon sounded, just after a few people's whereabouts were wrapped in a mass of unknown things, abruptly, and turned around. The group of eyes was already on a magic cloth like a magic carpet. On the other hand, Kurosaki Ichigo is walking slowly in the forest with Shihouin Yoruichi on his back. And why is Shihouin Yoruichi on Kurosaki Ichigo's back? That's because the exercise last night was too intense, so Shihouin Yoruichi woke up today she was tired too, so Kurosaki Ichigo carried her on her back. It's all your fault, Shihouin Yoruichi said on his back to Kurosaki Ichigo's back, and when I heard it, I said helplessly. Then who said that as long as you win the bet, you can do whatever you want? Shihouin Yoruichi also regretted hearing this. Why should he bet? Okay, don't complain, just take a rest first, I'll call you later. Kurosaki Ichigo said to Shihouin Yoruichi, and Shihouin Yoruichi accepted, and after a while, there was a breathing sound on Kurosaki Ichigo's back, and Kurosaki Ichigo, who felt this, also smiled, and then walked towards the depths of the forest. Bu. Chapter 91. The World in This World. Welcome back, Arisawa-san, Ishida-san, Sato-san, Orihime-san, Urahara Kazuki said while sitting in front of the magic cloth, slightly holding the hat on his head. It's you, store manager Heishin. If we see you, does that mean we have returned to the world? Arisawa Tatsuki looked around and said, because it was already midnight, so there was no one around, most of the people were gone. Everyone has fallen asleep, and there are still some that have not fallen asleep for various reasons. Even if this magic cloth is found, it is no big deal, because Tessai Tsukabishi will deal with it. Yes, I've worked hard for you this time, Urahara Kazuki said, then knelt on the magic cloth, and said, I'm really sorry, I have concealed so many things about going to Soul Society this time. I don't know what to say, so that you have encountered such a dangerous thing, but at least please let me say sorry. Ishida, Sato, and Orihime did not speak, but all focused on Arisawa Tatsuki, because Kurosaki Ichigo is not here, so they now regard Arisawa Tatsuki as the center of all people. Okay, Black, 440, store manager, Arisawa Tatsuki waved his hand and said, don't say that, if it wasn't for you, I'm afraid I'd already be dead. It was you who saved me when I was knocked down by Bikuya, and you helped me restore the power of Shinigami, so although you concealed a lot about this trip to the Soul Society, I don't mind, and I'm not used to your sudden behavior. Yes, thank you, Mr. Kurosaki. Urahara Kazuki straightened up and said, thank you so much. By the way, what about Mr. Kurosaki and the others? Why didn't they come back? Urahara Kazuki asked Arisawa Tatsuki and the others, and Arisawa Tatsuki said, we don't know either. They both disappeared when we were about to leave anyway. 35. Really? Urahara Kazuki said after hearing it. It's actually the two of them, there is no problem. Arisawa Tatsuki and the others wanted to refute after hearing it, but there was no more to say, so they all became quiet. Not long gone. Okay, can I trouble you to stop for a while? I'll just drop off here, Ishida said slightly. Advertisement. Okay. Urahara Kazuki replied, and then the magic cloth slowly descended, and when it was only 2 meters away from the ground, Ishida jumped directly. Then Mobu moved on, and soon Sato went down as well, leaving only Arisawa Tatsuki and Orihime. Okay, I'll stay here temporarily. Orihime pointed to the apartment in front of him and said, I can go down by myself. Long Gui, see you next time. Orihime jumped down after saying that. Manager Blackheart, I'll get off here too. I just happened to protect Orihime and go home. Arisawa Tatsuki also jumped down after him. Long Gui. Orihime looked at Arisawa Tatsuki for a moment. Arisawa Tatsuki shook her head slightly and interrupted Orihime. Orihime, I'll take you back, you are a girl in the middle of the night, it's not safe. Don't worry, Long Gui. Orihime patted his chest and said, it's only less than 50 meters away, don't worry, and Long Gui isn't a girl himself? Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki was also angry, then hugged Inoue Orihime and said with a smile, what did you just say? Inoue Orihime, who was very scared seeing Arisawa Tatsuki like this, said, what did I say just now? Seeing Arisawa Tatsuki here, I can't be surprised Inoue Orihime's brain circuit. Then they went back after a fight on the way. And Arisawa Tatsuki recognized the direction and suddenly rushed in the direction of home. I'm back, Arisawa Tatsuki said softly looking at the door of his house, and then suddenly he went straight to the window of his room. Because it was midnight, Arisawa Tatsuki did not enter through the door, but planned to enter through the window. Just as soon as he came to the window Ichigo, a black line appeared on his head. Because it was summer, the window was open, and when Long Gui saw the scene in the room, his face was tangled and angry. Because Long Gui went to the Soul Society, the body is temporarily managed by the soul. And this guy is really sleeping very honestly, of course, this is not the point. The point is, why this guy even sleeps on his chest, and rubs his chest from time to time. These can be tolerated, but the point is yes, this guy kept drooling in his mouth and murmured something like, big sister. What the hell is this guy doing? Arisawa Tatsuki gritted his teeth and looked at the soul, and then picked up the Shinigami pass on his body without hesitation and suddenly printed it on his body. With a bang, a pale green the pill popped out. Instead of reaching for the pill, Arisawa Tatsuki returned to his body first. Then Arisawa Tatsuki found the modified soul on his body, looked at it, and then threw it out. The modified soul fell on the table with a pop, then bounced back and fell into the puppet on the floor. The control of Arisawa Tatsuki's power can still be calculated. And this modified soul is not the soul of the original book, probably because of the butterfly effect. Even the modified soul has changed into a woman, but this woman is a bit rotten and has a lily character, so Arisawa Tatsuki spared her. After returning to his body, Arisawa Tatsuki was a little angry, because his chest is still very painful. It can be said that this guy has done something, and then he looked at the soul. And this doll is still the same as the original soul, it is just some women. After a while, the puppet turned over, saliva still flowed from the corner of his mouth, and he kept muttering, big sister. Arisawa Tatsuki's face was black and helpless, and then he turned around abruptly and chose to ignore. Advertisement? What? Why am I in this body again? The sky was bright, but then came a shocking sound. This sound directly woke Long Gui, who was sleeping, before Long Gui opened his eyes. Throwing on his face, Ichigo opened his eyes and saw a puppet lying on his face. The puppet was about to say something, but Long Gui directly stretched out his hand to grab the puppet. And then he threw it casually, and, Papa, saw a shadow that changed color, smashed directly on the wall, and then bounced back to another corner, bouncing back and forth, and then Long Gui raised his hand slightly, paw, with a sound. The puppet bounced back into his hand. Long Gui got up from the bed, scratched his head and put the puppet in front of his eyes and said, Soul, you are very noisy. Soul's eyes were still Uzumaki-like. After hearing Ichigo's words, he slowly recovered and immediately said, No, big sister Long Gui, what are you doing back? Without waiting for Long Gui to answer, he immediately opened his mouth and said, Yes, where's eldest sister? After saying that, Soul looked around, but he didn't find Rukia's figure. Rukia, she's staying in Soul Society, Long Gui said although he put down his soul. What? Soul roared loudly. How can you let the eldest sister stay in Soul Society? Wasn't she captured by Soul Society to be executed? Why stay there? And why do you want to come back? Long Gui scratched his head and said, The Soul Society has cancelled the sentence against Rukia, and she is the adopted daughter of the Kuchiki family, the head of the 4 nobles of the Soul Society, so she won't receive anything at all. Substantial punishment. Long Gui picked up his Shinigami proxy certificate and said, This is the Shinigami proxy certificate issued to me by Soul Society. It proves that Soul Society has begun to agree with me, the Shinigami agent. Since it has agreed with me, then Rukia will naturally not have any punishment. If this is the case, then it is better to let Rukia stay in the Soul Society, at least there is her big brother there, and because Rukia's spiritual power is absorbed by me, and I am not dead, so her Ryatsu think 3 it will take a long time to recover. For a while, Soul Society can help Rukia restore Ryotsu better than the current world, so it is best for Rukia to stay in Soul Society. After all, the war will continue. Is that so? Soul paused slightly and then hesitantly said, well, big sister Longwei, I heard that it was the elder brother who took the elder sister back. Will he treat the elder sister? Don't worry. I don't dare to say anything else. If it was Byakuya, he would definitely help Rukia's 1.4. Longwei smiled softly. Because in Soul Society, Byakuya was almost pierced by a knife in order to save Rukia. Heart. Is that so? Soul was silent for a while and said, if this is the case, then I have no opinion. Looking at Silent Soul, his eyes were full of reluctance, but he didn't say anything, and Longwei didn't think of it either. Soul had such an expression, he hesitated for a while. Longwei opened his mouth slightly to say something, but at this moment, only Soul. The reluctance in his eyes disappeared, and he said with a wretched look on his face, by the way, big sister Longwei, since you are back, it means that big sister Orihime is also back. Great, I'm going to see big sister Orihime, and then let she carry me into her turbulent peaks. A black line appeared directly on Longwei's forehead. What he was about to say, he directly swallowed it back in his stomach, then grabbed his soul, and in the astonishment of his soul, he threw it casually, and then the puppet's soul reappeared in the room. Started to rebound again. Then he lay back and thought to himself, is this really so important? Then I touched my chest, but immediately I took this idea back, and then closed my eyes and rested. Chapter 92. Relax. On the other side, in the depths of a forest in Soul Society, there is a house with smoke from cooking, and there is a fragrance emitting, and it is strange that there are many animals gathered outside this house, but they dare not approach the house for half a step. And he was looking at the room very eagerly, and there was a burst of female laughter from time to time in the room. There was also a male helpless voice. 3 and Kurosaki Ichigo took Shihouin Yoruichi to a place with a good view and stopped. When I walked in here, I was stunned by the scenery in front of me. There were lush trees, wild flowers everywhere, and some birds were chirping. I don't know what to say. The Sika deer walked gracefully by the stream, and even Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help but like it when he saw all this. So Kurosaki Ichigo took out the bamboo house installed in the system space, and then just by the creek, the Sika deer and the bird were startled away by Kurosaki Ichigo's action. After that, Kurosaki Ichigo put Shihouin Yoruichi on his back on the bed inside the house, covered it with a blanket, and went out to look for food. When I came to the side of the creek and looked inside, there were 1 or 2 fish swimming in the creek from time to time. Kurosaki Ichigo was very happy to see it here, and then he directly threw the fish ashore, and the fish was still thumping on the shore. Then Kurosaki Ichigo took these fishes into the house and started making them. In fact, there is a lot of food in the system space, but Kurosaki Ichigo thought that he would experience life in the wild when he came to the wild, take food out of the space. And when Kurosaki Ichigo was very skilled at cooking those fishes, Shihouin Yoruichi woke up, seeing himself lying in a bamboo house. Shihouin Yoruichi was not nervous, because she knew it was Kurosaki Ichigo who made it, and then heard the sound from the kitchen, knew that Kurosaki Ichigo was inside. Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy to see here, and even the words "I was happy" appeared in his eyes. And then Shihouin Yoruichi got up quietly and walked behind Kurosaki Ichigo, and Kurosaki Ichigo hadn't found her yet, and then Shihouin Yoruichi hugged Kurosaki Ichigo directly from behind and said loudly, "I love you the most." And Kurosaki Ichigo was very surprised when he heard it, and then he felt the familiar atmosphere and relaxed and said, "Why don't you lie down for a while?" "It's all right, it's not that tired anymore," Shihouin Yoruichi said, and let go of his hand, and then started to help. And Kurosaki Ichigo saw her clumsy movements and was very funny and said, "Okay, don't, I'm busy, let me go outside and catch another animal." 35 Shihouin Yoruichi, who was fighting in the kitchen, heard Kurosaki Ichigo's words and had no choice but to put down what was in his hand, and then went out very angry. "Okay, don't be angry, these things can't be mastered in a day or two, I'll take care of you later." After speaking, he began to put some salt on the fish in the pot and then covered it. When Shihouin Yoruichi heard Kurosaki Ichigo's words, he hugged him very happily and then said, "Ichigo, I love you." And I also dragged her up and said happily, "Meeting you is my life. The happiest thing." And Shihouin Yoruichi also nodded very moved, and when the two of us were about to kiss when our love was so strong, a roar sounded. And the atmosphere between the two of us was broken. Kurosaki Ichigo smiled helplessly, but Shihouin Yoruichi was very angry, and then said, "I'll kill it for a snack," and went out. It was Meng, but it was funny when I came back to my senses, and then I concentrated on cooking my own dishes. Shihouin Yoruichi came out and saw a lot of animals gathered here, and even tigers and lions came here. She thought, "My man's cooking is good, even these animals came here." Then she saw the tiger at the front of the animal, knew that he must have roared just now, so she teleported to it angrily and kicked it into the sky. The tiger is actually very wronged, because it didn't roar Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi at all, it was just roaring with the lion, but whoever told the tiger to roar first, so the tiger can only admit that he is unlucky. The tiger was kicked to the sky by Shihouin Yoruichi and died, because Shihouin Yoruichi kicked it with a lot of strength, but she controlled her strength, otherwise the tiger would have been kicked out by her. Those animals had already run away when they saw this scene, but because the wild boar ran slower, they were still caught by Shihouin Yoruichi. Then she went back with the tiger and the wild boar, and Kurosaki Ichigo saw that she came back with the wild boar, but she came back with the tiger, and asked, "Why did you bring the tiger?" Advertisement, bring it back to make it up for you. Shihouin Yoruichi said casually, but hearing Kurosaki Ichigo's face darkened, he quickly came behind Shihouin Yoruichi and said, "What did you just say?" And she heard this. I knew something was wrong, and by the time she was about to run away, it was too late, and then I was overwhelmed. And Shihouin Yoruichi saw Kurosaki Ichigo with a dark face and said humbly, "Don't be angry, okay?" And Kurosaki Ichigo didn't care, because asking him to make up, wasn't he questioning my ability? So Kurosaki Ichigo was very angry, and determined to let her beg for mercy at night until dawn. And Shihouin Yoruichi saw Kurosaki Ichigo's face still darkened, and said, "I promise one of your requests, okay?" "Okay. That's it." Kurosaki Ichigo smiled and started to deal with the wild boar and tiger. And Shihouin Yoruichi was very funny, because Kurosaki Ichigo has a childlike character, and then went to my side to give him off. Then in the laughter of the two of us, we finished all the dishes. Then we got it on the table and prepared to start eating, and the animals in the forest outside were very excited when they asked about the smell, and rushed towards the source of the smell. But after seeing this, they didn't dare to go forward, but no one went, so this scene was formed, and after Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi finished, they came to the table and sat down and said, "Ichigo, we are going to where to go?" Because of Kurosaki Ichigo, she loves to travel the world too. "I don't think there's anything to see in Soul Society, so let's return to the world tomorrow." Kurosaki Ichigo thought for a while and said, and Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy to hear this, and then nodded and said, "That's okay too. Well, it's strange to miss seeing you for a few days. So are you thinking about home, about your parents or about Yuzu Shiali?" Kurosaki Ichigo said to her very funny, and Shihouin Yoruichi said nervously when he saw my appearance, "Of course I think about it, or else." And seeing how nervous she was, I smiled and brought her some vegetables and then said, "Okay, let's eat quickly." Shihouin Yoruichi saw this very well behaved and started to eat, and Kurosaki Ichigo also started, and soon we finished our meal while laughing at each other. And when Kurosaki Ichigo was about to clean up, Shihouin Yoruichi said, "Let me do this, you can rest." Before Kurosaki Ichigo could answer, Shihouin Yoruichi took everything on the table into the kitchen. And Kurosaki Ichigo always fantasizes. Bypassing a lush bamboo forest is a bamboo house with curling smoke. In front of the house, a sea of white flowers of brilliant dandelions bloomed. Along a small cobblestone road, past a bamboo table with a chessboard, slowly entered the cool room. The layout of the house is very simple, and there is no lack of generosity in the simplicity. The house is made of 440% bamboo, and you can breathe the aroma of bamboo as soon as you enter. On the wall, there are dewy clothes and dai li, which are still dewdrops from yesterday's rain. An ancient red table of the 8 Immortals is in the center of the room, and there is a fish basket on the table. There were also a few bamboo chairs, clothingly around the table. Walk out of the house, on the left, the green stairs lead to the second floor. Standing upstairs, there is a clear stream behind the house, fish come out to breathe from time to time, and crabs are rampant. And a smooth and flat stone next to it should be a stone used by women to wash clothes for their husbands. 9. Of course, these are all Kurosaki Ichigo's previous dreams, that is, he has not yet crossed into the Shinigami world, but now he has crossed over and his dreams have changed, but he doesn't want to let his previous dreams even come true, so he also had to use this bamboo house instead. It didn't take long for Shihouin Yoruichi to finish packing, and came out to see Kurosaki Ichigo sleeping on the bed, and Shihouin Yoruichi saw that he was very helpless and happy, and then he lay beside Kurosaki Ichigo and hugged him, just about to close his eyes and fall asleep when I opened my eyes and said, "How is it? Are you tired?" Kurosaki Ichigo asked pitifully, while Shihouin Yoruichi said apologetically, "Did I wake you up?" "No, I didn't sleep, just closed my eyes," Kurosaki Ichigo said very easily, and then Shihouin Yoruichi put his head on my chest, and then said happily, "We will always be together like this from now on." And when I heard this, Kurosaki Ichigo was surprised at first, then patted her head and said, "Okay, we will always be together like this, so don't worry, go to sleep first." And hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi is like a child. I was very happy as well, and after kissing me, I closed my eyes and fell asleep. And I also hugged her and closed my eyes. Chapter 93, Back. In a blink of an eye it's bright, and Kurosaki Ichigo opened his eyes to see Shihouin Yoruichi lying in his arms, very funny, because she actually fell asleep with saliva on me, and then I flicked her forehead and said, "It's time to get up, little slacker." And Shihouin Yoruichi also opened his eyes, and then said coquettishly, "Will you let people sleep for a while, Ichigo?" Shihouin Yoruichi said to me very nauseously, and I was very helpless after hearing it, and then said, "Okay, well, then I'll get up and prepare breakfast first." Then he picked her up and put him back and said, "Don't drool in the future." After speaking, he pointed to his chest in the corner of Shihouin Yoruichi's mouth. Shihouin Yoruichi was very puzzled when he heard it, and when he saw it, he covered his face shyly and said, "Ah, what a shame," and blushed. Then I laughed and went out. When I went out, Shihouin Yoruichi hurriedly touched the corner of her mouth, and when she touched some water, she became even more shy, thinking, "How can I be so embarrassed? I actually drooled on Ichigo, and it was discovered. What a shame." Shihouin Yoruichi thought shyly. Kurosaki Ichigo, who came out next to him, still had a smile on his lips, because Shihouin Yoruichi Kurosaki Ichigo had not seen it before, but he was still very cute. Then Kurosaki Ichigo came to the kitchen and started to prepare breakfast. Prepare the ingredients: half have eggs, toast, sausage, bacon, tomato sauce, soybeans, tomatoes, mushrooms. There is also a big bowl of milk with a variety of dried fruit cereal oats. Take these things out. Then, 1 tomato is peeled and cut into small pieces, and half of the onion is chopped. First, pour the soybeans into the pressure cooker, then pour the tomatoes and onions, pour 2 large and small seeds of tomato sauce, add a little salt and pepper, a little soy sauce, and a spoon sugar, add 3 times water, boil the pressure cooker on high heat, then change to low heat and cook for half an hour, then remove it. Pour into a small milk pot, add a peeled tomato, a spoonful of tomato sauce, a spoonful of sugar, and slowly boil until it becomes thick. Then use a pan without oil to dry fry the bread slices directly on low heat, wait until it becomes crispy. Then use a dry rag to brush off the bread crumbs at will. Add a little butter to fry the bacon, and fry until both sides are slightly golden brown. Kurosaki Ichigo was cooking breakfast very well, and Shihouin Yoruichi also got up. She was very happy to see me in the kitchen, and then came to the kitchen. I said, "Honey, you sit at the table first, it'll be ready in no time." Then I was busy cutting the onion from the cross-section when I cut it before, took a ring, put it in the pan, cracked the egg, and fry the egg and onion, and that's it. And Shihouin Yoruichi hugged me from behind, and I stopped and hugged her hand and said, "It'll be ready soon." Then I let go of her hand, turned around and kissed Shihouin Yoruichi and flipped the omelette over. Fry the other side at once, then put all the food on the plate. Shihouin Yoruichi helped me bring all the food to the table, and then we both talked and enjoyed our breakfast. After we both cleaned up our dishes, we sat on the roof and said, "Yoruichi, we're going back." Advertisement, so soon? Shihouin Yoruichi said very reluctantly, because this kind of life is very happy, so Shihouin Yoruichi has the idea of living here forever. Okay, it's alright, as long as the potential threats here are eliminated, we can travel well and relax. So don't worry, we still have a long time. Kurosaki Ichigo said it easily, and Shihouin Yoruichi nodded when he heard it, and leaned back in my arms, and we both embraced each other and enjoyed our leisure time. An hour has passed in a blink of an eye. Okay, we're leaving now, Kurosaki Ichigo said to her very gently, and Shihouin Yoruichi opened his eyes and said, "Okay, 35. After that, the two of us jumped off the roof, and Kurosaki Ichigo waved his hand and took the bamboo house back. Seeing this, Shihouin Yoruichi looked at the place where the bamboo house was just now, and said to me, "Let's go bar." And I touched Shihouin Yoruichi's head and said, "Okay, we're going." Then Kurosaki Ichigo took out Tensa Zanjetsu, slashed it into the void, and it formed a black cavity, and then I hugged Shihouin Yoruichi, went out towards the inside, and when we walked in, the black cavity was closed too. On the other side, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also walked towards the school because the school started. When I saw Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi after entering the classroom, I was very puzzled and asked, "Ichigo, Yoruichi, when did you come back?" And Kurosaki Ichigo turned around and said, "It's today, isn't it the start of school, so just go straight come to school." And when they heard Arisawa Tatsuki, they nodded and went back to their seats. At this time, Keigo Asano ran over and said, "One guard," and I didn't even look at raising his arms and throwing Keigo Asano on the ground, saying, "Good morning, Ichigo." I replied, "Good morning, Aqua," and Keigo Asano, who was lying on the ground, said, "Long time no see, Ichigo," and me. At this time, Mizuhiro Kojima said, "Good morning, Shadow and Arisawa, do you look good?" And Arisawa Tatsuki, who heard it, said, Is that so?" At this time, Keigo Asano also came over and asked, "This where did you all go during the holidays?" Then they looked at each other, and Keigo Asano was surprised and said, "What are you staring at? Then I don't know where to put your eyes on and say, could it be summer vacation? What happened between the two?" And Arisawa Tatsuki punched her directly and said, "Don't make wild guesses," and Keigo Asano returned to his seat covering the place where he was beaten. At this time, the master craftsman Shizuru came over and asked Inoue Orihime, "Orihime, how was your time at your relative's house?" And Inoue Orihime said, "I had a good time, and I encountered a lot of things," and then said, "Oh, I met a lot of things?" Advertisement, went to a strange place. Inoue Orihime said that Arisawa Tatsuki and Chado Yasutoru were very nervous, and Shizuru, the craftsman, was very puzzled. A strange place? And Inoue Orihime continued, "Well, at first glance, it looks like a street with swords in the Edo period." After Arisawa Tatsuki, the two of them became more nervous, and continued, "And there is a talking cat, and then the cat turned into a girl, and that a girl is." When Inoue Orihime was about to say something else, Arisawa Tatsuki directly covered her mouth and touched her head, saying, "Okay, stop talking in your sleep." 35 and Shizuru, the master craftsman, also took what she said as a dream talk. Then the head teacher Yuaji Mayu came over and said, "Okay, everyone will take their seats." Then they all sat down and said, "Very good, everyone is here. It is commendable," and then said, "Although Oshima Kazunomachi isn't there, but who called them hooligans? So forget it, Shuang." In the backstage, all the students were surprised and said, "Is that okay?" The head teacher then said, "Then, let's get the summer vacation report anyway." And Arisawa Tatsuki kept looking at Rukia Kuchiki's seat without knowing it. I was thinking about something, and I was very bored looking outside, and Shihouin Yoruichi was also looking at me helplessly and funny. At this time, there was a roar from downstairs. "Hey, B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* Yes, and Yulong Ishida said, "This voice is Arisawa Tatsuki, I know you're here, hurry up and come out." The voice continued, and everyone looked down at the artisan Chizuru and said, "Longui, is that your friend?" And he continued, "Clothes from the 1960s. And Miyu Koshitomo came to the window and looked at it and said, "I really miss it." Then, "Arisawa, you." When she had to say something else, Arisawa Tatsuki ran out and said, "Teacher, I'm going to the toilet." Then, teacher also said, "Oh, is it?" Afterwards, the students also said with nostalgia, "I miss it so much, that dress," and Abarai Renji downstairs was still urging, "Hurry up," and Arisawa Tatsuki went down and saw him saying, "You be asterisk 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 D." And look, Arisawa Tatsuki, who ran wildly, said, "Yo, 35," and Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Yo what yo?" and dragged him directly into the haystack. "Why are you panicking?" Abarai Renji said easily, while Arisawa Tatsuki said, "What, why are you here?" And Abarai Renji said indifferently, "Where is this mine? Be free, you don't need to panic." "Are you?" And Arisawa Tatsuki interrupted directly, "It will cause a big storm, and it will be so loud," and Abarai Renji directly stood up and said, "However, righteousness, I feel really uncomfortable, Rukia can adapt." And Arisawa Tatsuki kept on him and said, "What are you doing here? Let's be less verbose, this time I will manage Karakura Street," so I asked Mr. Urahara, and then came to say hello to you, "Are you not satisfied?" Abarai Renji said proudly, and Arisawa Tatsuki said, "You to manage?" And Abarai Renji hummed, then went on to say, "As a vice captain?" Abarai Renji's face paled when he heard this, and Arisawa Tatsuki went on to say, "Demotion, demote," and Abarai Renji retorted, he said, "No, it's because of your lack of spiritual power, that's why you sent me here." Arisawa Tatsuki also got angry and said, "What did you say?" At this time, the proxy card lit up, and Abarai Renji said, "Why? What's the matter?" And a ghost appeared on the playground. See here, Sanjing Renji was very nervous and wanted to escape from the corpse, but there was no way to escape. And Kurosaki Ichigo, who has been watching them by the window, is very happy, because Kurosaki Ichigo is very happy every time he sees this part of the original book, so it is not bad to be able to see the plot of the original book with his own eyes. In the end, Arisawa Tatsuki solved it. Advertisement Chapter 94. Inoue is arrested. After killing the virtual, Inoue Orihime also gave a sigh of relief and raised his fist and said, "Great." At this time, the teacher was beside her, and when she heard her words, she was very puzzled and asked, "What is great?" And Inoue Orihime turned to look at the teacher and didn't know what to say, so he smirked, and the students laughed along, and Arisawa Tatsuki hurried to his body after killing Ku, and Abarai Renji said, "It's hard work." And Arisawa Tatsuki said very rudely, "What hard work?" Then he picked up his body and said, "Don't leave your body anywhere, hurry back and go back. It's hard to come out, I have to go in again." Then Arisawa Tatsuki went in and said, "There's nothing to stop coming to school from now on," and Abarai Renji reflexively said, "Why?" And Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Listen, has it arrived?" and then went back. And after school, Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi also went home together. When I came to the house, Kurosaki's mother missed and hugged me and said, "Welcome home." And after I heard it, I said, "I'm back." Then I hugged Shihouin Yoruichi to welcome her back, and then Kurosaki Yuzu and Kurosaki Shioli also came back, and seeing Kurosaki Ichigo jumped into my arms and said, "Brother, Ichigo brother, I miss you so much." And I hugged them and said, "I miss you so much too." At this time, Shihouin Yoruichi said, "Don't you miss me?" She said very dissatisfied, and when they heard this, the two of them broke away from my arms directly, and then hugged Shihouin Yoruichi's hand and said coquettishly, "Of course, also think about it." Then Kurosaki Yuzu and Charlie walked towards the 443 side with Shihouin Yoruichi's arm, and I was abandoned. "How is it, don't you feel distressed?" Kurosaki's mother said to me jokingly, and I also understood what she meant, so I shook my head speechlessly and said, "It's okay, just be happy." Kurosaki Ichigo said I went in after I finished, and Kurosaki's mother didn't understand the deep meaning of my words, but she went in without asking. Not long after I went in, Kurosaki's father also came back, and he was very happy to see me coming back. He asked me, "How's this trip?" And after I heard it, I said very easily, "That is, I've been wandering around, so it's nothing." When I heard Kurosaki Ichigo's casual words, Kurosaki's father was angry and proud, and when I saw that his face was not very good, I immediately changed the subject and said, "By the way, Dad, how is the company?" And Kurosaki's father was very angry with me. He easily changed the subject and said, "Not bad, I know almost everything about the company." Then he raised his face proudly, and I wanted to slap him when I saw this scene, but I put up with it. The Kurosaki mother and Shihouin Yoruichi, who were sitting next to them, both laughed when they saw it, while the Kurosaki sisters were very confused about what they were laughing at. Then we happily ate dinner and went back to our rooms. I slept, and the Kurosaki sisters really wanted to sleep with me, but I refused, and it took a lot of effort to coax them both back. Then he lay on the bed very relaxedly and said, "It's better to stay at home." Shihouin Yoruichi also lay beside me and said, "Yeah, CGBE, is really good," and then got into my arms and closed as she opened her eyes, and I teased her, "It's impossible to fall asleep so easily," and started tickling her, and Shihouin Yoruichi hurriedly opened her eyes and begged for mercy. "I'm sorry. Ahahaha. I'm sorry," Shihouin Yoruichi said intermittently and laughed, seeing that she had surrendered, so Kurosaki Ichigo also let her go. It didn't take long for Shihouin Yoruichi to slow down and ride on me and said, "I want revenge now." After that, she started to tickle me, but I didn't respond, and then she responded and said, "I forgot, you are not afraid." Itchy, and then lay in my arms and looked up at me with very cute eyes. I smiled when I saw this, and said, "Okay, I'll let you go this time, I'll take care of you next time." And she snapped her nose and said, "Go to bed early." And Shihouin Yoruichi kissed me very happily and said, "I love you the most." Then he retracted his eyes and closed his eyes. Not long after, there was a sound of breathing. Seeing that Shihouin Yoruichi soon fell asleep, Kurosaki Ichigo, it was also very funny, and then I also fell asleep thinking about something. And Abarai Renji is staying at Urahara Kazuki, and, like the original, is still joked about by Tessai Tsukabishi, Hanakari Jinda, Sumagaya and Urahara Kazuki. And after Inoue Orihime finished eating in the evening, she started to miss her brother, and then she actually cried, and suddenly the doorbell remembered. So Inoue Orihime hurriedly wiped her tears and hurried to open the door, and what she saw when she opened the door was my older brother, Inoue Minimum. Advertisement. And in Urahara Kazuki where Abarai Renji appeared because of a strange Ryatsu, so Abarai Renji's cell phone started ringing, and he immediately woke up and went out. Arisawa Tatsuki was still in his sleep, and suddenly felt someone calling him and woke up. When he opened his eyes and saw that it was Abarai Renji, he punched him and said, "What are you doing, you pervert?" Abarai Renji, who was here, quickly explained, "I came to you because of work," while Arisawa Tatsuki said very rudely, "Why'd I have to do everything? Or you can't be like, how can Rukia solve it alone?" Hearing this, Abarai Renji retorted, "What did you say?" Before Abarai Renji got angry, the soul in the cabinet ran out and said, "It's noisy, it's midnight." Abarai Renji was very surprised when he saw it and said, What is this?" He grabbed it and said, "Could it be that this is?" Then he put his hand into its mouth and grabbed a pill-like thing and said, "It really is Yihun pill. It can move even if you put it in this kind of thing." "So what's the job?" Arisawa Tatsuki asked Abarai Renji, who was playing with the soul, and Abarai Renji also put the soul down and said, "According to the situation, a very strange thing appeared, although Ryatsu is weak, can't you feel it?" And hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki immediately felt it and said, "Ah, Orihime." And Abarai Renji said, "Yes, it is near Inoue Orihime," and Arisawa Tatsuki said angrily, "You should have said this kind of thing sooner." Then he took out his proxy card and turned into Shinigami and said to Abarai Renji, "Anyway, let's go first." Then he hurried to where Inoue Orihime went, and Abarai Renji followed closely. And after they arrived, a door similar to the gate of hell appeared. They were surprised to see here. Abarai Renji said, "This is not the gate of hell," and at this time the door was opened, and saw here Abarai Renji said, "Why is the gate of hell open when it's not?" And Inoue Orihime is unfortunately sucked in. He shouted, "Longui," and was completely sucked in, while Arisawa Tatsuki was very nervous and pulled Zanpakuto out and cut it to the door. Orihime, but disappeared without cutting it. Then Arisawa Tatsuki shouted angrily, "Orihime." And on the other side, Soul Society, the first team. Aizen Sosuke, the former captain of the 5th Division, Ichimaru Jin, the former captain of the 3rd Division, and Tusen Konami, the former captain of the 9th Division, are now missing. Fortunately, according to the report of the Technology Development Bureau, the Hōgyoku held by Aizen must be prepared to use it. There is a lot of preparation and waiting for the final completion, so there is no need to worry about him being abused at the moment, but the fact that these 3 people are a threat to the Soul Society and the world is unchangeable, so a search team operation has been organized. Today's meeting. So far, disbanded, Yamamoto Yuan Liaojai said, and disbanded. After the disbandment, Jashiro Yukitaki and Kiraku Shunsui were talking on the roof, but they were all less important things, and they were small things for the current Kurosaki Ichigo. "I didn't expect to set up a search team," Jashiro Yukitaki said helplessly, while Kiraku Shunsui said very easily, "It's alright, it's Nadasu who will direct and manage it anyway, so just relax." Hearing Kiraku Shunsui's very irresponsible words, Jashiro Yukitaki also wanted to talk about him, but thinking that he had been with him for so many years, so he knew his character very well, so he sighed and said, "Although it is like that, but it's time to do something, right?" Hearing this, Kiraku Shunsui had to perfunctory and said, "I see." Because he knew that if he didn't agree to his friend, he would have to say some long speeches, so Kiraku Shunsui had no choice but to verbally said to promise perfunctory. And seeing Kyoraku Shunsui's appearance and tone, Jashiro Yukitake knew that he was perfunctory, but he couldn't do anything about him, so he didn't say anything, and then Shunpo left. After he left, Kyoraku Shunsui said to himself helplessly, although I really want to take care of it, who is still in the world? Who said that Aizen is his goal, and the world is also his territory? Ah. It's not a definite thing to provoke him. I don't know who Kyoraku Shunsui was talking to, but he left after he said it. But after he left, a man with long silver hair came out very tangled, then sighed and left. Chapter 95. Bavant. And after Inoue Orihime disappeared, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others came to school the next day and asked if Inoue Orihime was here. They all said they didn't know Inoue Orihime, which surprised Arisawa Tatsuki, and then Arisawa Tatsuki came to Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi asked from the side, "What's going on, Ichigo?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo looked at it and said, "It's just that the memory of Inoue Orihime was erased from their minds, and this matter is actually someone's it's a prank." Kurosaki Ichigo told them everything indifferently, and Arisawa Tatsuki knew it immediately after hearing it, then turned around and ran to a place, and Ishida Yuryu and Chado Yasutora also followed. After they all left, Shihouin Yoruichi said helplessly, "Is this all right?" Hearing her words, Kurosaki Ichigo said very relaxedly, "Of course it's all right, anyway, it's something Urahara Kazuki made, so let him explain it." "Right." Shihouin Yoruichi was very funny to hear this, and then said, "Ichigo, you are not jealous?" Shihouin Yoruichi asked very skeptically, and I said casually, "If you are really jealous, I killed him a long time ago, I won't keep him until now." Shihouin Yoruichi also nodded in cooperation after hearing this. "Then why is that?" Shihouin Yoruichi was still very puzzled, and I said angrily, "It's not because he doesn't look good." Shihouin Yoruichi was very funny when he heard this, and then said, "Just because of this? Is this not enough?" Kurosaki Ichigo asked back, and Shihouin Yoruichi didn't know what to say, and I looked at her very silent expression and leaned up to kiss her and said, "Okay, don't think about it, and Shin can be a quiet beauty by my side. Don't they say that you are responsible for your beauty, and I am responsible for making money to support your family, so, you should sit at ease." Then she flicked her forehead. When Shihouin Yoruichi came back to his senses, he was very angry and glared at me, but I saw a touch of inseparable affection in her eyes, so I hugged her comfortably, and she struggled shyly and said, "Don't be here." In this way, there are others. Hearing this, I smiled and said, "It's okay, they can't see it anyway." After hearing this, she knew that Kurosaki Ichigo had set up a barrier, and then she said coquettishly, "You know how to make fun of me." Seeing how cute she is, I put my head on her and said, "It's probably because of love, that's why I like you so much." Shihouin Yoruichi was a little dissatisfied when I heard my answer, but when I heard this from me, in a word, she was still very happy and said, "I know how to make people happy," and then she quietly leaned in my arms and enjoyed my pity. On the other side, because of Kurosaki Ichigo's words, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others successfully retrieved Inoue Orihime, and Urahara Kazuki also explained. Games can cultivate a lot of things, first of all, physical strength, and Urahara Kazuki. Intelligence, cooperation, adaptability. Urahara then explained to them the reason for this. Then Arisawa Tatsuki was very upset and gave him a punch, but Urahara Kazuki avoided it very easily. Seeing her very upset, Urahara Kazuki apologized and said, "I'm sorry, Miss Arisawa, this is mine." Wrong. Urahara Kazuki said a lot of good things before Arisawa Tatsuki let go. "So what else is there?" Ishida Yulong asked very puzzled, because Ishida Yulong thought of some other things because of these things, and because of Ishida Yulong's question Urahara Kazuki gave him a very compliment. His eyes said, "Actually, there is nothing to do, because there are some human beings who hunt souls in the present world, and they can't be called human beings. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, they are like Western vampires, but they are all it sucks the soul and hurts a lot of innocent people, so I hope you can solve it." And hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki asked very puzzled, "Since this is such a thing, why don't you say it directly?" Hearing here Urahara Kazuki was also embarrassed, and then said with a smile, "I thought this would give you some exercise, so I did this, and..." Before he could finish speaking, Arisawa Tatsuki hit him. Then Urahara Kazuki squatted down and hugged his face as if it was hurting, and Arisawa Tatsuki was about to beat him when he was stopped by Inoue Orihime, and then Arisawa Tatsuki struggled and said, "Let me beat him well," and Inoue Orihime said, "It's alright, Longwei, there is no danger anyway." Arisawa Tatsuki got even more angry when he heard this, so he said, "If you are really in danger, then I will definitely kill you." His Ishida Yuryu Yasutora was helpless when he heard Arisawa Tatsuki's angry words, and Abarai Renji didn't seem to hear it, but now they didn't dare to touch Arisawa Tatsuki's brow, so they had to stay quiet. "Where is it? Miss Arisawa, are you relieved now?" Urahara Kazuki said from the resurrection, and looked at her very provocatively. Of course, Arisawa Tatsuki's violent temper couldn't bear seeing this scene, so he was about to break free from Inoue Orihime when beating him Urahara Kazuki. One of Bakudo, Sho, and Arisawa Tatsuki will not be able to move right away. Advertisement. UB ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* Sakazuki looked at Arisawa Tatsuki helplessly and said, "Now it's time to get down to business." The type of person I just mentioned is called Bavant, but the race of it's up to you to ask Mr. Kurosaki for the introduction. There's nothing left to do. Then Urahara Kazuki immediately walked away with the 3 modified souls. And Arisawa Tatsuki is very angry, because she has not been able to break free from Urahara Kazuki's Bakudo, and she was teased by him, so Arisawa Tatsuki shouted to the place where he disappeared. I will never let you go, Urahara Kazuki. And Urahara Kazuki, who heard Arisawa Tatsuki's words, was also very sweaty yan. Hearing this, Inoue Orihime asked, Longui, don't you like the store manager Urahara? Arisawa Tatsuki was stunned when he heard this. Even Abarai Renji, Ishida Yulong and Chaya Sutora was also stunned. And Arisawa Tatsuki came back to his senses and said, where did you see that I like him? Hearing Arisawa Tatsuki's words, Inoue Orihime was very cute and said, isn't it? Then why do you say, I won't let go of your words? Isn't that saying that I won't let him run away? Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki really admires the idea of Inoue Orihime. Katakana middle dot flowers katakana middle dot even Ishida Yulong and the others said that they could not understand her brain circuit. After that, Arisawa Tatsuki didn't know what to say, and with the departure of Urahara Kazuki, the Kido he set up also disbanded, so Arisawa Tatsuki moved a little and was about to say something when Inoue Orihime came up and said, Dragon Gui, if you really like the store manager Urahara, then go after it bravely, don't be tangled. Arisawa Tatsuki almost lost his temper when he heard this, and then patted her head angrily and said, what do you say? It's impossible for me to fall in love with him. Then I walked towards the school. Inoue Orihime saw Arisawa Tatsuki leaving and followed her, while Abarai Renji and the others were very helpless, but they followed them to the school. On the way, Inoue Orihime has been encouraging Arisawa Tatsuki to bravely go to school. Urahara Kazuki launched a love offensive, but Arisawa Tatsuki didn't believe how she explained it, so she didn't bother to explain. Abarai Renji and the others followed behind and didn't make a sound at all, but they all thought, I will ask Inoue Orihime in the future talk less. This idea has become ingrained. When I came to the school, I didn't see Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi in the classroom, so they went to the roof. And when I got to the roof, I saw Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi eating. Kurosaki Ichigo was surprised to see them coming, and Shihouin Yoruichi was a little dissatisfied, because she wanted to enjoy the time alone with Kurosaki Ichigo, but because of the arrival of Arisawa Tatsuki and the others, Shihouin Yoruichi had no choice but to smile. What's the matter with me? Kurosaki Ichigo asked very puzzled, and Shihouin Yoruichi also looked at Arisawa Tatsuki, and after Arisawa Tatsuki told me what happened just now, I smiled helplessly and said, Bavant is also with humans with special abilities like quenchers. What quenchers have is only the ability to destroy the emptiness that will bring disaster to themselves. Bavant absorbs the souls of human beings as his food. In addition, Quincy, as a human being, suffers from birth, old age, sickness and death, but Bavant can survive forever by absorbing the souls of human beings. Scene. However, taking the souls of dead humans when they are buried is the usual practice of Bavant, but this time, what I saw Bavant was absorbing the souls of living people, so I think because of something it's going to happen. When I finished speaking, Arisawa Tatsuki was going to ask what their purpose was, but seeing Kurosaki Ichigo's beckoning, he knew I was chasing them, so they had to leave. Bu. Chapter 96. First meeting with Bavant. After explaining to them, I went back with Shihouin Yoruichi and went back to their respective rooms after eating as usual, and I was so bored. Shihouin Yoruichi looked at me and asked, what's the matter? Hearing this, I said helplessly to her, it's so boring, I really don't know what to do. At this time, I suddenly felt a surge of Ryotsu, and I became interested, and Shihouin Yoruichi saw the light in my eyes said, go ahead if you're interested, I'm going to sleep first. After that, I closed my eyes and lay down. I looked at her and smiled and said, I'll be right back, then I kissed her and went out. At this time, Ishida was rescued by Yoshino because of the attack by Utagawa in Bavant, but he was still injured and hospitalized. In fact, it was not Fangye who saved him, but he was injured in order to save Fangye. Well, let's go and see them. I went to Ishida's hospital, and when I got there, I felt that Arisawa Tatsuki and the others were being attacked by the 2 twin dolls from 443 to Bavant. Yeah, what is this thing that has made you so miserable, and who are those 2 idiots? They're so arrogant. I asked Arisawa Tatsuki, who was confronting, suddenly appeared in front of them. Ichigo, you came just in time. These 2 guys are Bavante. Watch out for the water on the ground, Arisawa Tatsuki said. Ichigo, it's up to you. It would be embarrassing if you couldn't even deal with them. Arisawa Tatsuki said, wanting to see me make a fool of herself, but she really wanted me to be as helpless as them. Cut. This is the Bavants, and I thought it was the idiot who came running, I said to the 2 Bavants. Kurosaki-san, you better be careful, Inoue said. What did you say about us? You be asterisk 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 D. Jante. Gru. Go and kill this B asterisk 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 D. The 2 men Pung and Pan asked their puppets to control the water to surround me, then wrap me in the water. Watching I was wrapped in water, Pung and Pan were laughing out there. And Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also wanted to charge at me worried. Advertisement. Hey, you 2 idiots, if you want people to know that you are idiots, don't smirk there. Your mother didn't tell you. You laughed so hard, I said in the water. What, impossible. How could it be? Jonte, Gru, Pung and Pan didn't believe it, and then called their puppets again, trying to pour water through my nose, but what made them drop their jaws was that the water didn't go, but circled around me. Did I say you two are like this? If that's the only level, then go. I said to them. You must know that I have an upper enchantment on my body. If the water can get in, it would be hell. Then, under their surprised eyes, the water around me started to freeze. When I received it, the frozen water around me began to shatter, fell to the ground and disappeared, without looking at their panicked appearance. They were surprised to see Arisawa Tatsuki here, and Inoue Orihime asked, "What's going on?" Hearing her question, Abarai Renji said, "It should be using Kido to freeze the ice." Abarai Renji also very surprised, because this requires a very strong Kido cultivation base to release Kido without chant. And Arisawa Tatsuki said in disbelief when he heard it, "It's impossible, I can also Kido. How can I do it?" Hearing this, Abarai Renji looked at her like an idiot and said to her, "You think everyone are they all like you?" Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki froze and said, "What did you say? You be asterisk 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 D?" Then Abarai Renji began to quarrel with Arisawa Tatsuki, and Kurosaki Ichigo thought helplessly when he saw this scene. These two must have been enemies in their previous lives. And Yulong Ishida and the others also kept persuading them, but it was useless, and I looked at the two Bawant and said, "It's time to end." Looking at the vigilant Pung and Pan over there, they raised their hands and stretched out two fingers. Under their surprised eyes, two extremely thin starlights shot towards Pung and Pan from their fingers. They may have realized the danger and thought, "Hide," but it was too late, so I had to call the puppets to block, but they didn't even look at my starlight. Although it was thin, it was done by the Ryatsu compression I use. Well, it turned out that even the puppets shot through with them. Watching the two of them fall to the ground, even the puppets turned to ashes. The only thing that proves them is their clothes and the two pools of water on the ground. Of course, it's not my credit that they turned into ashes, but they would have turned into ashes if they lost their power. However, their powers all depend on the puppets, and their own strength is poor, and they are their puppets. It's too bad for me, if it's not boring to deal with them. I said the one hiding over there, "Wouldn't you come out to take a look when your companion died?" I said to the front in their surprise. I did find a Bavant hiding there. "Oh, have you been discovered?" Sure enough, the captain's rank is different. Fang Yi walked out of the shadows. "Yoshino, it's you," Ishida said. "I'm not at the level of captain," Kurosaki Ichigo said helplessly, and Yoshino was also very puzzled, but he didn't ask anything. Advertisement, "Oh, it's better than some guys, but what are you doing here? Aren't you here to die?" I said casually. "Kurosaki, don't kill her," Ishida said nervously to me. And I shrugged helplessly, and then walked aside, and Arisawa Tatsuki was always stopped by Inoue Orihime and said something in Arisawa Tatsuki's ear. After Arisawa Tatsuki smiled and said, "Oh, if that's the case, then I don't care. Haha." Arisawa Tatsuki looked at them ambiguous and said. And Ishida Yulong saw that it was very easy for me to kill her, so I hurried to dissuade her, but this move made him expose his thoughts and was discovered by Inoue Orihime next to me. And I pretended to look at Ishida Yulong it was a surprise, but it was relieved immediately, and Ishida Yulong heard Arisawa Tatsuki's words and knew that he was misunderstood, but he did not explain, and blushed like a monkey's asterisk asterisk. "Hey, talk to him if you have anything," Arisawa Tatsuki said, and then turned to Yasutora and Abarai Renji. "What are you going to do? Don't disturb the good things here." Oh, let's go first and wait for them in the front." Abarai Renji also saw the ambiguity between them and said. Others walked away in agreement. "No need, I just want to tell you that the other Bawant came for the power of his Quincy. Be careful if they will come again this time," Fang Yi said and left. "Oh, Ishida is gone. Do you want to keep up with me?" Arisawa Tatsuki said with a breath. "B asterisk 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 D. You be asterisk 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 D." Ishida couldn't stop hitting Arisawa Tatsuki for 1.4, but he fell down without hitting Arisawa Tatsuki with his body. And after sending Ishida Yuryu back to the hospital again, Abarai Renji said to me, "It's nice to see you again, Mr. Kurosaki." Hearing this, I said indifferently, "Okay, see you." "So what happened?" Hearing this, Abarai Renji solemnly knelt down to me and said, "Mr. Kurosaki, I would like to ask you to teach me so that I can become stronger." After he finished speaking, he lowered his head. When I saw this scene, I was very helpless, and then I took him up and said, "If you want to become stronger, you don't want to find me, but I won't say anything here," and Abarai Renji seems to have thought of something said, "Could it be?" Before he could say anything, I said, "It's alright if you know, don't say it, and he is much better than me in teaching others." After that, Abarai Renji bowed to me and said, "Run out." And when he left, I also laughed, and then disappeared in an instant. Chapter 97. Kill Bavant again. And while Kurosaki Ichigo was walking towards the house, he suddenly felt that the Ryatsu of Yasutora was fighting with another kind of Ryatsu, so Kurosaki Ichigo passed by. And when I came over, I saw a huge petrified whale and its owner, Bavant named Sawato, arrogant, disgusting, flat, rubbish. This is how I feel about them. Being attacked or relying on petrified whales, the mouth swallowed the attacking energy into the different space, or directly slipped and moved into space, and then when others were unprepared, the petrified whale Fortla suddenly appeared from the space, opened its mouth to swallow others, and swallowed people. Go to the space in its stomach. This kind of thing is really rubbish. To put it bluntly, it depends on its little space, and that old man Sawadu is still so arrogant. What to say to let them see the difference in strength? Really think that he is the root scallions. Looking at Yasutora Chadu who is chasing them everywhere, I feel a little helpless. And the big doll whale Sato Yasutora was unprepared again, appeared on top of him and rushed towards him, seeing that Sato couldn't dodge and was going to be swallowed by it, suddenly. With a touch, under the surprise of the old man, the doll Baula suddenly fell from the air and fell to the ground. Seeing that it was Kurosaki Ichigo, Yasutora said with relief, "Thank you, Ichigo," and I nodded. "Old man, are you going by yourself, or I'll take you off?" I said to Sawato who was sitting on the doll. This guy was very arrogant just now, I want to see his arrogant capital. "Oh, who are you? It's not easy for me to go. I want to get the power of that Shinigami today, but my opponent is him. God is so kind to me. I didn't expect another Shinigami to come. It's really good, very lucky, so let you be my food, Paula." Sawato said, and started calling his doll. The doll also said, "Okay," and started to act. That idiot old man still wanted the power of Arisawa Tatsuki and wanted me to be food. He really didn't know whether to live or die. Watching the big whale open its mouth and rush towards me, and then open its mouth to swallow me. Garbage is garbage. Just this one attack method. I didn't even move when I saw the big whale rushing over. I didn't move when I saw it. "Get out of the way, Ichigo," shouted Shadow Yasutora beside him. And Sawato, who was sitting on the big whale, was smiling, and his smile was ugly, but his smile soon disappeared, because his big whale fell to the ground with a touch, again, and he almost didn't sit down and fall, because I blocked it with one hand, and my hand didn't move at all. "How cool is it? Is this the difference in strength you said? It's really boring," I smiled and said to Sawadari, who had just sat down. "Impossible, Paula." Sawadari didn't believe it and started to control his doll again. He wanted to sneak into the underground space to attack me, but his idea was impossible. No matter how much he moved, he could only be there because he and his puppets are surrounded by a barrier, so he can only move within the barrier. "Impossible. How is it possible, Paula?" Sawadari still didn't believe it and started to let his dolls bump around, but the result was that he couldn't get out. "Who the hell are you? What did you do?" Sawadu no longer had the arrogance he started, and some only said in fear. "Advertisement. I'm only asking now, but for a small character like you, I'm not qualified to know." I looked at him and said, "Even such a small person wants to know who I am and doesn't look in the mirror." "I think you've lived a long time, so I'll give you a ride," I said, looking at the doll and Sawadu, who were still trying to get out of the barrier. Hato's 90 black coffin. I gave up the chant and used the Kido that Aizen used, and the one who didn't return me was not the kind of Kido who gave up the chant and only had a little power. My Kido was 100% powerful. This is the Kurosaki, the reason why Ichigo didn't use all his strength, otherwise, the power would be even greater. Ah! I saw a box with a black wall wrapping the frightened Sawato and the puppet in the barrier, and then countless shadow blades pierced into the box from around the black wall. When the black wall disappeared, Sawato and the puppet had been stabbed into pieces, broken pieces. And I looked at Shadow Yasutora and said, "Let's go." And Shadow Yasutora's recovery is very complicated, because Kurosaki Ichigo is already very strong now, which makes Shadow Yasutora, who has always wanted to help Kurosaki Ichigo, very helpless, but Shadow Yasutora still followed Kurosaki Ichigo. On the way, Shadow Yasutora kept thinking about it, and finally felt relieved. He must become stronger and help Ichigo. And after sending Shadow Yasutora back, Kurosaki Ichigo walked towards a place. After stopping, Kurosaki Ichigo came to the entrance of a cave, and when I was about to go in, a person blocked my way, and when I saw someone coming, he is a Shinigami, and Kurosaki Ichigo also thought of it. He is Maki Ichino's, and he is a former 11th team member, and he trusts and admires Zaraki Kenpachi's former 11th team captain. Because Kenpachi defeated the original captain, he became the captain of the 11th division. The original captain died. He thought that his beliefs could no longer be understood, and he resented Kenpachi. He became a Shinigami who fled. He joined the Soul Hunters because he had the same ambition as the Soul Hunter leader Kariagami. In the final battle with Kenpachi, he was seriously injured, and finally abandoned the darkness and turned to the light. After being killed by Karya, his Zanpakuto rescued Kurosaki Ichigo once. Thinking of this, Kurosaki Ichigo wanted to let him go, but, "You are from that division, why are you here?" Hearing his rude and high-level words, Kurosaki Ichigo was also a little dissatisfied, and said, "You take care of me," and then went inside, ignoring him, and Ichino's Maki was very embarrassed and angry, and then attacked me directly, then blocked it with a backhand and said, "You are not my opponent, so get out." He was scared when he saw Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes, but his eyes became firm when he thought of Zaraki Kenpachi, then he jumped back and said, "You are strong, but I also have a reason not to give up," and took Zanpakuto come out and said to me, "Shine, Nijigasumi," and it became like a rainbow. "It's really troublesome." I turned my body towards him, while Ichino's Maki paused and said, "Glow, ultimate Nijigasumi." Seeing this scene, I thought it was very similar to my own crescent moon, and then after I gave him a crescent moon, The two strands of Ryotsu collided, and my Ryotsu ran over his Ryotsu directly and then hit him directly. And he was also solved by my trick. Seeing his very daring eyes, I sighed helplessly, and then walked towards the inside, and was blocked by someone after a while, and this man, as if he was still a lunatic, said, "You rubbish, suffer." Before he finished speaking, I came and pierced him with my hands. And he was very surprised. He actually died like this, and then disappeared with remorse. Seeing his doll disappear with him, Kurosaki Ichigo didn't take it to heart at all, and continued to walk inside. Chapter 98. Boring Ichigo. And when I was walking into the cave, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also understood Baban's purpose and plan at Urahara Kazuki, so they all headed for the cave. On the way, Arisawa Tatsuki complained very much. "Ichigo, it's true, you know it all, why didn't you tell us? It made us have to run around, really." Hearing Arisawa Tatsuki's complaint, Inoue or Hime, he said very easily, "It's alright, Longwei, we have nothing to lose anyway, and if it wasn't for Kurosaki who told us what I was caught, you wouldn't be able to find me so quickly, right?" Arisawa Tatsuki also nodded helplessly. "Even so, it's still quite annoying." Abarai Renji muttered very softly, and neither of Arisawa Tatsuki and the others heard it. And while they were trying very hard to go somewhere, Kurosaki Ichigo also met another Bavante in the cave. When Kurosaki Ichigo was walking slowly into the cave, something like a void suddenly appeared, and Kurosaki Ichigo waved his sword lightly, and a sword pressure appeared to divide it in two. But it didn't take long for another one to appear, and Kurosaki Ichigo killed it very easily. Kurosaki Ichigo thought that this was the ability of Aba 443 Winter in the original book, so Kurosaki Ichigo instantly came to him after sensing his location. Behind him, and he hadn't reacted yet, he said, "Where did that Shinigami go?" He still looked at his screen stupidly and said, seeing his puzzled expression, I raised my hand and extended my index finger with a smile on my lips and said, "Hado number 4, Baile." He also turned around when he heard my words, but because the attack had already come, instead of hiding, he was pierced through his head, and the expression of doubt and fear disappeared. And I thought, these people are too weak, it's not challenging at all. Kurosaki Ichigo in the original book is too weak. This kind of stuff takes so much effort. After thinking about it, Kurosaki Ichigo went back to the cave and walked towards the cave. And while going inside, I looked at my own attributes. Name: Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku, S*X. Male age: 15. Advertisement spouse: Shihouin Yoruichi, soul, potential, unlimited. Ryotsu: Super Captain, level 21 and 5487 10,000ths, Zanpakuto. The perfect Zanjetsu, final solution. Kido: General Shunpo, General White Hits, General. Slash. General Combat Experience. General Crescent Moon Sky Chong, General. Crackling Flash. General No Moon, General Advertisement. Backpack. Character Fragments times 5487, Intermediate Experience Beads times 4000, Advanced Experience Beads times 3000, Super Experience Beads times 2000, Breakthrough Card times 49. Kurosaki Ichigo is also very happy to see this scene, because my strength has become stronger again, and now I realize that my Hōgyoku is not so simple. I don't have the ability to upgrade my strength at all, but I can break through and upgrade my strength by myself. I'm very happy to be stronger, and not without character fragments. And why the level of skills has become a general level, this is about the level of skills. From low to high, skills are divided into scholar level, general level, king level, emperor level, etc., and these levels also correspond to the level of the world. That is, the level of all worlds is almost the same, and the difference is not much different. And Shihouin Yoruichi's strength has also become stronger, but her skill level is stuck at level 20, which is probably because there is no Hōgyoku, so Kurosaki Ichigo is determined in his heart to get Aizen Sosuke's Hōgyoku. Why? Why don't you take it now? That's because there is a free coolie, so why bother? Aizen Sosuke is just a more advanced coolie in Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes, so taking Hōgyoku in his hands is no trouble at all, no. And Kurosaki Ichigo came across another Bavante not long after walking. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ichigo thought helplessly. This is not a clearance game, why do they come one by one? The one who came over was a man with long green hair, wearing a purple robe, beige trousers, and holding a fan connected by a chain with a sword. When I saw this, I knew it was her doll, and she looked at me and said, "What a handsome boy. I don't know why you are here, CGBE." And she licked her lips, and I twitched the corners of my mouth helplessly. She swung a sword directly in front of her, and when she saw me appearing in front of her, her pupils shrank, and she immediately reacted with a fan and sword force and struck me at will, but she was still knocked back. Kurosaki Ichigo was very cool to see the traces of her being pushed back and extending backwards, but I still didn't leak a single expression, just like a person without emotion, and she was very scared after retreating a dozen meters, and then seeing the look in my eyes, I was even more frightened and said, "Who are you?" Hearing her question, Kurosaki Ichigo ignored her and swung his sword again, and this time he gave her a sword pressure, and when she saw this, she was directly scared, because she felt that this sword pressure was terrible, she would die, but she could neither escape nor block, so she could only be solved by this sword pressure in fear. Then the sword attacked the wall of the cave unstoppably, and directly opened a hole in the wall of the cave. Fortunately, Kurosaki Ichigo put his strength very low, otherwise the cave would have collapsed long ago. And the innermost few Bawon were surprised when they felt the movement, and among them a man with silver white hair, a short scar on his lower jaw, and a brown robe was very relaxed and lighthearted. After laughing, he glanced at them, and then focused his attention on the piercing gate. At this time, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also came to the entrance of the cave. When they saw the scene in front of the cave, they were very surprised and said, "What's going on?" The corpse of Arisawa Tatsuki asked in amazement, but no one could answer, and then they all went inside. Kurosaki Ichigo sensed that they were all coming, so Kurosaki Ichigo also came to the place where Bavante gathered in a few moments, and the man in the middle of Bavante was very surprised when he saw me coming and said, "I didn't expect it so soon." "Just a gentleman." Then he nodded slightly to me and said, "Please forgive me for not exhausting the friendship of the landlord." After hearing this, I smiled and said, "It's all right, I'm quite happy anyway." He looked at him all the time, and he was a little scared when he was looked at by Kurosaki Ichigo's very cold eyes, because he saw his own death in these eyes, which made him very unhappy as a person above him, and then said, "My name is Carry God, what is your name?" Hearing this, I shook my head and said, "There is no need for a dead person to know my name." After saying that, I gave him a sword. Seeing my appearance and words, Carry God was angry, so he raised his hand to block my attack, but seeing that my very bland tricks were so powerful, Carry God hurriedly dodged, and the man behind him a few Bawons are not so easy. When the three of them are about to be attacked by this sword, two Bawons dodge away, while the remaining one is killed like a fool. He was very unwilling to say, "Damn." He died after saying that, and the remaining two, one is Soma Yoshino, the other is Kogago, a doll with the appearance of a spider. He grabbed Soma Yoshino to avoid the attack just now, and then looked at me very scared, then he glanced at him casually, and he immediately looked elsewhere. Chapter 99. The end. After seeing this scene, Carry God was very angry, but immediately said calmly, "It's really amazing." And I didn't have any reaction when I heard his words, and I didn't even bother to look at his attributes, because the strength is simply not worth using this to see. And when Carry God was about to attack, Arisawa Tatsuki and the others all came. They were also surprised to see me here, and then relieved. Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Ichigo, are you doing all those things?" And I nodded because I knew what it was things, so nod. "Ah, this place is not bad, it's really a ruin," Abarai Renji said, looking at the altar-like environment around the cave and where Bavant and others were. "Really, this is the last hiding place of our Bawant. It is the place where many of our comrades hide in order to avoid persecution. It is very deep, only in this way can we survive, but now there are only a few surviving ones." Carry God said after hearing Abarai Renji's words. "Oh, so it is, no wonder, but why don't you continue to hide? What are you doing out?" I asked, but I thought to myself, "Come out, you will die." "Oh, this is all for us to leave this world and prepare for it." Carry God walked up to the altar. "Prepare, for strength, you go to absorb the souls of the living. In order to get out of here, you go to capture the quenchers, right?" Arisawa Tatsuki said. "Yes," Carry God replied. "What, leaving the world? Do you really want to connect the world with the virtual world? Are you the same as Aizen?" Arisawa Tatsuki and the others said in surprise. Hearing this, Carry God was also stunned, and when they saw Arisawa Tatsuki, they also knew that they thought too much. And Carry God didn't know that there was only one person left under his subordinates. Soma Yoshino was not his subordinate, Carry God said at this time. "Although I don't know what you said, I didn't expect so many people to come." When he was about to start, Ishida Yulong took the lead in attacking Kobagang, because he wanted to go to Soma Yoshino first, so he shot a few spiritual arrows at him, and Kobagang saw this and used himself directly. The puppet blocked it, and as Ishida Yuryu attacked Arisawa Tatsuki, they also attacked them. I rushed to the gate of crossing the world and blocked their way, because Kurosaki Ichigo didn't want to make trouble for them to get rid of the crossing. Go in through the gate, and then go to the Soul Society to kill them. Kurosaki Ichigo didn't want to, so Kurosaki Ichigo just stood there watching Arisawa Tatsuki and the others fight. And Arisawa Tatsuki fought with Carry God, because after returning from Soul Society, the training was doubled, so it didn't take long for Arisawa Tatsuki to learn his own Bankai, and it was not bad, and Arisawa Tatsuki's Bankai was very good. Bankai afterwards, an armor was formed around her body, and she was also holding a long spear and shield, and there was a flash of thunder around her, making it impossible for others to approach, so I thought it was very good. Arisawa Tatsuki, who was covered in thunder and lightning, fought evenly with Carry God, but Carry God was injured more. Advertisement on the other side. Yulong Ishida and Koga just got into a fight, and it didn't take long for Chadu Yasutora and the others to join in, so Koga was killed tragically. Although he looked at the original book, this guy is not bad, but it has nothing to do with me. Even if he dies, it doesn't matter, so he doesn't help him. And Ishida Yulong rescued Soma Yoshino and said, "How is it? Are you alright?" Hearing this, Soma Yoshino said, "It's alright, it's just a little angry." Ishida Yulong was relieved to hear this. Then they all looked at the battle of Arisawa Tatsuki. Soma Yoshino asked Ishida Yulong, "Is it alright if I don't help her?" Hearing this, Ishida Yulong said easily, "It's alright, anyway, there is Kurosaki here, nothing will happen." Hearing this, she gave me a frightened look and immediately took it back and said, "Indeed." Seeing that Soma Yoshino was very afraid of Kurosaki Ichigo, Yoshida Yulong said, "Don't be afraid, Kurosaki will not hurt his friends." Hearing this, Yoshino Soma also nodded, but she was thinking, she is his friend what? At this time, Arisawa Tatsuki and Carrier God came to a last-ditch confrontation, and both sides were injured, but Arisawa Tatsuki's injury was small, while Carrier God was very serious. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ichigo also jumped down from the altar, and Arisawa Tatsuki looked at me and complained, "Why didn't you do it?" Hearing this, I laughed and said, "Of course it's to train you guys, after that, go outside." And Arisawa Tatsuki and the others didn't say anything when they saw it, but at this time, the Carrier God who came from Soma Yoshino said to him, "Carrier, I didn't expect your plan to become like this, it will end before it starts." Soma Yoshino asked Carrier who was lying on the ground wondering what he was thinking. "Indeed, although I thought about failure, I didn't think it would be like this. However, what is it if I know it will become like this? I will also come. All I want is a destination, this place that created us and also destroyed us, and destroying her is like an incidental thing to do in comparison. Whether it succeeds or not is a matter of desire for me. To be honest, we people have no goals in the first place. Is it just us to take revenge on the Soul Society? Is it your goal?" Carrier God glanced at Soma Yoshino and said calmly to the sky, "Not the slightest fear of a failed life, but just a loss of life." ****. Then he said to me who was walking outside, "You are a person I don't understand. From your eyes, I can see your indifference to everything in front of you, as if everything has nothing to do with you, but it seems that everything is your master. What is your goal? Or do you have no goals like me, living in a daze?" After saying that, Carrier God disappeared, and I paused when I heard his words. Just go on. On the way back, I suddenly looked at the city and a sense of loneliness came from it, as if I was out of tune with them, without a sense of belonging, and suddenly thought of Carrier God, who has found his so-called home. I remembered what he said to me, "I can see from your eyes that you are indifferent to everything in front of you, so that everything has nothing to do with you, but it seems that everything is your master. What is your goal? Or do you have no goals like me, living in a daze?" Thinking of this, I said to myself, "What is your goal?" He looked up at the sky and asked himself in the bottom of his heart, "What is my goal?" As Carrier said, "I am indifferent to everything in front of me, and everything that happens around me has nothing to do with me, I live my own life. In a daze, I never have a goal, I never know why I live. Although I always say that I want to travel the world with Yoruichi, but I still haven't integrated into this world." Thinking of this, Kurosaki Ichigo is confused. When I got home, I saw where Shihouin Yoruichi was sleeping peacefully, touched her face and thought, "Isn't my goal to protect those who love me and those I love?" Thinking about it, Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly became enlightened, and then kissed her and fell asleep beside her. This night made Kurosaki Ichigo understand his heart, so his strength has also undergone some changes, and even the system has undergone unknown changes. Chapter 100. Arrival of Hiriko Shinji. And after dawn, Shihouin Yoruichi felt that he was in a person's arms, and after feeling the familiar smell, he became dependent and arched inward, and I opened my eyes to see her look very funny, and then scratched her nose and said, "It's time to get up," and then nodded her forehead. "Don't," Shihouin Yoruichi said to me coquettishly, and he was lying on top of me, so I couldn't get up. Seeing her very naughty, I pretended to be very angry. I licked her butt and said, "Get up quickly, otherwise," and then looked at her with a very evil look, and Shihouin Yoruichi was very scared when she saw my eyes, because she didn't want to get out of bed today, so she was very fast get up and take a shower. When I saw this scene, I was very funny and helpless, and then I cleaned up the bed and went down. Watching 447 to the parents who were exercising in the yard outside, I was also very relaxed, and then I came out to see. He said to them, "It's really early," and before Mom said anything, Dad said, "It's not that we got up early, it's that you got up too late, son of a b******ch. I was relieved to hear this. She laughed and didn't say anything, but my mother was very keen to find something. "What happened last night?" Mom asked, very puzzled, and after I heard it, I said very easily, "It's nothing, it's just." Then I told them what happened last night, but I didn't say what Carrier God said. After listening to my words, the two of them were very proud and said, "Since you have solved it, then it's fine." And Dad said happily, "It can be said that you solved it for them. You're in trouble, so you have to go to the old man to get some rewards." He said it for granted, and when my mother heard this, she was very angry and said, "What are you talking about? Really, this is you Shinigami. How can you ask for rewards from others?" And where did the mother and father talk? But it seems that the mother has crushed the father. And when I got home, I saw Shihouin Yoruichi watching TV. And I also saw Relish. I was very surprised to see this at first, because I didn't find this in the original book, but then I also took this as the difference between the original and reality. I walked behind her and nodded her head rudely and said, "Okay, it's time to go to breakfast." Then I directly picked her up with the princess hug, and she was enjoying herself. I said in my arms, "Ichigo, you seem to have changed?" Hearing this, I was very curious and said, "What has changed?" "I don't know very well, I just think you are fine now." I also kissed her dotingly and said, "I am not good to you, but to whom?" Then I hugged her and walked outside, and after coming out of the house, I put her down, and she said hello to my mom and dad who were exercising. I went to the houses of Yuzu and Shali, and when I went in, I saw where they were preparing breakfast and said, "Do you need my help?" Hearing this, the two of them turned around and said happily, "No need. Brother, where are you sitting for a while?" Shali also nodded in agreement. When I saw their reaction, I was very amused. The two of them came next to me and said, "Let me help too. This is faster," and then picked up the ingredients and made it very skillfully. I was cooking happily and giggling beside me. I didn't know what I was thinking, and I had to wake the two of them up from the daydream and make it together. It didn't take long for us to make breakfast together, and then I got up and called Dad and the others in for breakfast, and Dad tasted it and said, "You two did a great job today." "And Mom," he said directly, "this is made by your son, you can't eat it, really?" And the father said very embarrassedly, "Yes, is it?" Then he stopped talking and started eating, and seeing this scene we all laughed. In a burst of laughter after we finished our breakfast, Shihouin Yoruichi and I went to school, and Yuzu and Natsu also went to school. Only Mom and Dad were left, but they all went to do their own thing. And after I entered the classroom, Keigo Asano came to me excitedly and said, "Ichigo, you know what?" Kurosaki Ichigo was very puzzled and asked, "What?" At this time, Sumi Kojima came over and said, "It's a new classmate." "I'm here." I was very puzzled when I heard this, but before I asked the head teacher who was here, I called someone out and said, "Introduce yourself, 39. Advertisement. A man with short yellow hair with a funny mushroom head walked into the classroom with an exaggerated smile and said, "Yes, teacher." Hiroko Shinji said, then went straight forward, picked up the chalk, and began to write his name on it. The name is Flat Flat, the son of Ono's sister, the real foreskin, plus the son of the hot girl Menteiko, so together it is Hiroko Shinji, please advise. Hiroko Shinji bowed slightly. "Hey, Hiroko-san, you wrote it backwards," Mr. Yuaji said immediately. "I saw the 4 words on the blackboard, true, and, ping, are fine, no matter how they are reversed, as long as they are not upside down, they are all the same, but, Z, is different." "It's well written," Hiroko Shinji said with a smile. "When it comes to writing reverse words, I'm still good at listening." "Is that so?" Teacher Yuaji said, "Then can you mention it a little while you're writing?" "Haha, teacher, how can you say this first?" Hiroko Shinji said, "If you say it first, everyone's reaction will be different, so it will not be fun." Teacher Yuaji was speechless for a while, and then pointed in the direction of Ichigo. "Forget it, you go to the seat first, just sit next to Kurosaki." "Yes, teacher," Hiroko Shinji replied, then came to the seat next to Ichigo, pulled out the chair and said to Ichigo, "You are Kurosaki, let's get along well in the future." "Oh," Ichigo replied, and then looked at Hiroko Shinji's meaning and said, "Then please give me more advice in the future." "No, it should be 1.4. I need more advice from Kyo Kurosaki." Hiroko Shinji did not agree with Ichigo's words. I didn't think much about it, after all, in his cognition, Ichigo probably didn't know his own. But Kurosaki Ichigo already knew him when he came in, and Shihouin Yoruichi knew about him too, but just now Hiroko Shinji's attention was always on me and didn't find Shihouin Yoruichi, otherwise he would be surprised, because Shihouin Yoruichi would actually be there going to school here, and being very close to Kurosaki Ichigo. "Please give me some advice too, Hiroko classmate." Shihouin Yoruichi suddenly said behind Kurosaki Ichigo, and Hiroko Shinji also subconsciously said after hearing it, "Please give me some advice, this." Before he finished speaking, he saw the person who spoke was stunned, then he suddenly said loudly, "Urahara Kazuki, you cheat me." Chapter 101. Join. When the teacher heard Hiroko Shinji's loud shouting, he was very angry and said, "Hiroko classmate, please be quiet." Hiroko Shinji had to sit down quietly after hearing this, but he was always greeting Urahara Kazuki's family in his heart. I was thinking about something, and after class, he came directly next to me and said, "Can you go out with me?" Hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi said directly, "Of course not." Hiroko Shinji collapsed when he heard this. Then I said to her very pleadingly, "I beg you." Seeing that he was very scared and pleading, I said with a smile on the corner of my mouth, "Okay, let's go." After that, I took Shihouin Yoruichi's hand, out. Hiroko Shinji was very happy to see this scene, but was surprised when he saw Shihouin Yoruichi going out, but he was stunned when he saw Kurosaki Ichigo holding Shihouin Yoruichi's hand, and Keigo Asano next to him came over and said, I'm new here, so it's right not to know. Ichigo and Yoruichi are a couple. I really envy Ichigo." Hiroko Shinji lost his mind when I heard this, and kept thinking. Yoruichi and Kurosaki Ichigo are a couple. Been thinking about this. Then I suddenly remembered 26 important things, so I recovered and ran outside, and Ryotsu, who sensed the two of us, came to the rooftop immediately, and then he looked at us and said, "You." Before he could say anything what Shihouin Yoruichi said, "If you have something to say, don't make any other things." Hearing this, he twitched the corners of his mouth and thought, it really is Shihouin Yoruichi. Then he recovered his emotions and said, "I'm here to invite you, Kurosaki Ichigo." Hiroko Shinji looked at Ichigo and said, "That's why I invited you, Kurosaki Ichigo." Hiroko Shinji raised his hand slightly. A terrifying force emerged, and then a mask appeared on Hiroko Shinji's face. It was a completely white mask. The mouth on the mask was replaced by the shape of teeth, and there was a back part behind the mask. It looks like the hair on the back, but it has the taste of two ancient warriors. With Zanpakuto and the mask of the virtual, I am the one who stepped into the virtual realm from the Shinigami side, the one from the Kamen army. Hirako Shinji said, I am your kind, Kurosaki Ichigo. Hearing this, I smiled and said, why, I haven't used the power of emptiness until now. Do you think I am your kind? Hirako Shinji was also very surprised to hear this. I didn't expect you to know us too. Did Yoruichi tell you? But don't care, although your phantom power hasn't manifested yet, it's probably because your own Shinigami power is too strong, so it's been destroyed. We have been suppressed, and come to our group, we will have a solution. Hirako Shinji analyzed and said, hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo was also very thoughtful, thinking. The power of his own emptiness may be given by the power of his own Shinigami. I was shocked, so I didn't dare to show it. It's possible that what you said is true, but why should I join? Kurosaki Ichigo said very easily. Hearing this, Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo and said, I know you also have the ability to hollow, you know. This means that you can't be a complete Shinigami, and of course, you can't be a virtual, so neither the Soul Society nor the Hōgyoku Mundo can fully accept you. Only us. Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo and said. Only we Kamen Corps can fully accept you, Kurosaki Ichigo. Because all the members of our Kamen Corps, everyone is Zanpakuto plus a virtual mask. We are the same kind. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo nodded in agreement. Hirako Shinji saw me nodding and thought I agreed, so he was very happy and said, did you agree? And I was very funny and said, I can't do it now, I'll go to your place and see it later. Listen, when Hirako Shinji was here to say something else, the class bell rang, and I said, let's go to class first. Let's talk about this after class. After that, I took Shihouin Yoruichi's hand and walked to the class. And Hirako Shinji had no choice but to go back to the class, and during the class Shihouin Yoruichi used the system's telekinesis to voice transmission to Kurosaki Ichigo. Ichigo, are you going to join? Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo also returned to his senses and said, joined, it's okay to join anyway, isn't it? Shihouin Yoruichi also hummed when he heard this, and it can also strengthen my strength, so I choose to join. Yoruichi, you won't refuse to accept it. I heard Shihouin Yoruichi say here. Of course I won't refuse, but aren't you Hōgyoku again? Why use joining them to get the power of hollow? Hearing here Kurosaki Ichigo said casually, although you can also use Hōgyoku to hollow, but I always think it's too easy, and... After a pause, Shihouin Yoruichi said, and I want to see the emptiness in my body, don't I? She understood it very well. After I said it, I also smiled helplessly and said, yes, you really know me. Hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi said very seriously, Ichigo, although I will not stop you, but I still have to say don't underestimate anyone, got it? I also knew that this was because Shihouin Yoruichi was worried about me, so I had to promise that I wouldn't underestimate the enemy. School was over in a blink of an eye. After school, Kurosaki Ichigo said to Hirako Shinji, I promise. Hirako Shinji was surprised and asked, what? Kurosaki Ichigo said casually, of course I promise. Join you? Hirako Shinji was also happy to hear this, and Kurosaki Ichigo went on to say. Of course Yoruichi will also go with me, otherwise I won't go. Hirako Shinji agreed without listening because he was very happy, so I didn't listen to Kurosaki Ichigo very well. Then Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi left. Ah la la. In this case, my mission is almost complete. Hirako Shinji watched Ichigo leave and said, I won't use this troublesome school in the future. It's great. I'm really unaccustomed to being in school. But why did you come to convince Ichigo that I must come to school? It's really unpleasant to think about it. Hirako Shinji walked towards a place, and behind Hirako Shinji, Long Wei was turning his head from the classroom to look at Ichigo and Hirako. Although I just saw their silhouettes and didn't hear what the two of them said, Long Wei could feel that something was happening between Ichigo and Hirako Shinji that no one else knew about. Chapter 102. Sarugaki Hiyori. After Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi left, Long Wei followed Hirako Shinji, who had just left the classroom, and Sato also followed, because there were many people in the school, coming and going, and there was only one gate to the school, and all the students they have to leave here, especially now that so many students are at the gate, so Hirako Shinji doesn't even notice two people behind him. Hirako Shinji walked slowly by himself, and kept complaining at the same time. Of course, what he complained was nothing more than a few words, even if he didn't listen, but because he kept complaining, he didn't even know his one or two pigtails behind him. With a very drawn face, a little girl with a knife on his back appeared behind him and Hirako Shinji didn't notice it at all. The little girl stood behind Hirako Shinji. She was wearing red sportswear and flat wooden slippers on her feet, and then kicked Hirako's *** with one foot, only to see Hirako flew out directly, bang, and slammed into a wall before it stopped. It hurts. Who is it? Hirako shouted loudly behind him, then turned his head to look. When he saw the little girl, he was indeed slightly startled. Hi. It is Sarugaki Hiyori, a member of the Masked Corps. Hiyori raised his right foot and threw it slightly, and the slippers he called flew up. Hiyori grabbed the slippers and slapped Hirako on the face fiercely and shouted, Idiot, you've been dawdling to the end. What are you doing? And what about Kurosaki Ichigo? That one hasn't. Hirako Shinji said. Idiot, then hurry up and trick him with rhetoric, Hiyori roared loudly. Well, wait for me to say. Finished, Hirako Shinji said. Ichigo has agreed to join us, but he said it will take some time to deal with other things. Idiot, we don't have much time. B************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** fiercely. What do you want to do to Ichigo? Why should Ichigo join you? Arisawa Tatsuki said, standing behind the two, and Sato also stood behind Long Gui. Idiot. Hiyori grabbed Hiriko Shinji's collar, then slammed his head against Hiriko's forehead and said, "You are being followed, you idiot." "I know that even for Ichigo's sake, Ichigo will say it's okay. I know him," Arisawa Tatsuki said, "so I thought it would be better to ask you guys directly. Who are you, Hiriko-san?" "HMPH. Do you think I'll tell you if you ask?" Hiyori said, so the group of four fell into silence, and after a while, Hiyori said, "My name is Sarugaki." "Hiyori, report your names." At this time, Inoue Orihime came over and said, "Longui, please slow down, really." Arisawa Tatsuki was also very helpless to hear this, and then said, "Orihime, you go back first." And Inoue Orihime came to Arisawa Tatsuki and saw Hiriko Shinji and Sarugaki Hiyori saying, "What are you guys playing?" Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki covered his head helplessly and said, "Okay, you stay by the side first, stop talking." After speaking, Inoue Orihime had to shut up. Advertisement. My name is Arisawa Tatsuki, and they are Yasutora and Inoue Orihime, Arisawa Tatsuki said. Oh, Hiyori narrowed his eyes slightly and said, a knight, a princess and a tiger. Are they all very powerful names? I'm just an ape and a piece here, which is really enviable. P.S. During the Song dynasty, princess was changed to Emperor G, so the G of Orihime means princess. What do you mean by being flat? Just my name is not a creature. Hiriko Shinji pouted slightly behind Hiyori, putting the two together is really an idiot. Hiyori glanced slightly, and then a sudden punch hit Hiriko Shinji's arm, and with a pop, Hiriko Shinji's fingers stabbed into his nose, and blood spurted out. Hiyori looked at Orihime and Sato, to be precise, at Orihime, and also has a supple burst and a pair of big breasts. It's a really unpleasant woman. Pure jealousy. Hiriko Shinji covered his nose and complained again, and it's only for Orihime. With a boom, Hiyori punched Hiriko Shinji's nose again. Although Hiriko Shinji covered his nose, after being punched by Hiyori, the blood from the nose gushed out even more. Forget it, I don't have anything to say anyway. Hiyori's eyes became slightly cold as he said, and a trace of murderous aura emerged from his body. You all die here. Wait a minute, Hiyori, you can't kill them. If you kill them, Ichigo will come and kill you right away, Hiriko Shinji said immediately. Well? Hiyori was stunned for a moment, then looked at Hiriko Shinji and said, do they know Kurosaki Ichigo? They're all Kurosaki Ichigo's friends and partners, so if you kill them, how do you think Ichigo will react? Hiriko Shinji said to her. Forget it, let's go, bald, Hiyori said, then turned to leave. Wait. Arisawa Tatsuki shouted immediately, but before he could speak, Hiyori stopped and a gust of Ryatsu said, Woman, I didn't kill you because you were Kurosaki Ichigo's friends, don't take an inch. The powerful Ryatsu directly pressed Arisawa Tatsuki, Orihime, and Sato, preventing the three of them from advancing. Then Hiriko Shinji and Hiyori left. Orihime and Sato stood still and didn't move. He was pinned to the ground by Ryatsu of Hiyori and was temporarily unable to move. It wasn't until Hiyori left for a while that the two regained their ability to act. Negative. Chapter 103. Masked Army. On the other side, after Kurosaki Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi went back and told Kurosaki parents what happened, Kurosaki's father looked at me very seriously and said, Are you sure? I don't do anything I'm not sure about. Hearing this, Kurosaki's father was relieved, but Kurosaki's mother said, I must go, can't I not go? 35. Hearing this, I was very helpless and said to her, I won't, I have something to do. After saying that, he was ready to go out, and Shihouin Yoruichi was also beside me. Yoruichi, you don't have to worry about me, I can go by myself. Hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi was very angry and said, I don't want it, you said that you will take me wherever you go. Hearing here Kurosaki Ichigo he also smiled and said, okay, and left with Shihouin Yoruichi Shunpo. And after the two of us went out, I met Hiriko Shinji, and then I said to him, okay. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji also nodded, and then said to me secretly, is she coming too? Seeing his helpless expression, I had no choice but to nod. Then Hiriko Shinji was speechless. Where are you going? Ichigo followed Hiriko Shinji's side. Three people stood in the air and walked in one direction. Of course Ichigo didn't know where to go, just followed Hiriko Shinji. Shihouin Yoruichi knew, but didn't say anything. I'll take you to see your future companions first, and then start practicing. Hiriko Shinji said without turning his head. Ichigo, don't be too surprised by then. It's not surprising, Ichigo said lightly. It's just a group of original Shinigami wearing masks. Hearing this Shihouin Yoruichi said aloud. Yes, that's what it is. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji was full of black slime, but no sound. Yoruichi, why don't you train Hollow as well? Hiriko Shinji pricked up his ears when he heard this, and Shihouin Yoruichi asked very strangely when he heard this, can I do it? I know what she's worried about, because Shihouin Yoruichi has no emptiness in her body, so it's very troublesome, and I can't expose myself to Hōgyoku in front of Hiriko Shinji and them, so I had to ask Hiriko Shinji. Can Yoruichi hollow is it? Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji said, it shouldn't be possible, because hollow is because there is an empty power in the body, so it can be done, and Shihouin Yoruichi has no empty power in the body, so it can't be done. I was also discouraged when I heard this, but he said to her with his mind power. It's okay, I'll leave it to you when I know it. Hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi also said to me, okay. Seeing that I was a little dissatisfied, Shihouin Yoruichi hugged my arm and said, it's okay. Hearing this, I had to compromise. Soon the three of them left Karakura town, almost leaving Karakura city, and Ichigo looked at the CGBE, abandoned port and the countless empty warehouses on the dock. Ichigo looked at Hiriko Shinji and said, no, this is probably the headquarters of the masked army, it's too shabby. Hey, it's a bit too much to say this now. Hiriko Shinji looked at Ichigo and covered his forehead helplessly and said, there's nothing we can do here, our identities are too special, and because this place is abandoned, so except for the occasional homeless coming back, not even Shu is here, so as long as you set up a barrier, then there will be no problem. And Yoruichi is snickering. That's right. Ichigo nodded slightly and said, at least I didn't feel any Ryotsu when I came here. If you hadn't brought me here, I wouldn't have noticed that there would be Ryotsu fluctuations here. Of course, we have already blocked all Ryotsu. Neither Shinigami nor Kudo can sense it. Hiriko Shinji said with a slight pause, and a figure of a person appeared in his mind. He secretly said, but if it was her, maybe she would be able to perceive it. After all, her power seems to be the same as Aba's power source. It seems that she will also be attracted to take a look. Naturally, Ichigo didn't know what Hiriko Shinji was thinking. He just followed in Hiriko Shinji's footsteps. In a flash, two people appeared in front of a completely abandoned warehouse. Let's go, this is it. Hiriko Shinji pointed to himself. The warehouse in front of him opened his mouth. Ichigo looked at the most dilapidated warehouse in the entire terminal, followed in the footsteps of Hiriko Shinji, and looked around at the same time, and saw that the entire warehouse was so dilapidated that it was about to collapse. Even the original tempered glass had been shattered, and the entire interior of the warehouse was shattered. There are some gravel everywhere, and the entire warehouse was originally 3 floors, but now it has become 1 floor, because most of the ceilings on the 2nd and 3rd floors have collapsed. Advertisement. Ichigo looked around and said, hey, it seems that this warehouse is the most broken one. You didn't choose this warehouse as your base camp because of this. But it is, even if it is some homeless. If I came here, I would probably go to those warehouses that are a little better, not this one that could kill people at any time. As soon as Ichigo's voice fell, his pupils suddenly dilated, and he clearly felt that there was suddenly a lot more in front of him. Shares Ryotsu. Hey, the little devil slandered our base camp as soon as he came. This is too arrogant, a little girl with yellow hair and 2 braids said. Ichigo raised her head slightly, looking at the little girl. It was true he was still very young, with some small pimples that looked like pimples on his face. A tiger tooth was exposed on the outside of his lips, and he was wearing red sportswear and a pair of flip-flops, which looked very dragged. Yo, Hiyori. Hiriko Shinji greeted. Okay, everyone, this is Kurosaki Ichigo who will join the outside. Ichigo, let me introduce you first. Ichigo looked at the members of the masked army. Hiriko Shinji pointing at Sarugaki Hiyori. The girl who is talking to you is Sarugaki Hiyori. Then Hiriko Shinji pointed at a girl who was dressed very strangely, and Ichigo's first impression was that this girl was an alien. She is Kuna Mashiro. Hello. Kuna Mashiro looked at Ichigo and greeted. Ichigo bowed back and said, hello. Then Hiriko Shinji pointed to a girl wearing glasses and a sailor uniform and said, she is Sally Yahamaru. She, Hiyori and Shiro are the only 3 women we have. Sally Yahamaru's eyes were cold under the glasses, glancing at Ichigo coldly. Ichigo was taken aback, wondering if he had offended her. Then Ichigo followed Hiriko Shinji to look at the others. Hashijin, a very large, fat uncle with a pink beard under his nose. Love Ikawa, an uncle with an afro in a light blue sweater and sunglasses. Muguruma Kensai, 99, a handsome young man wearing a black vest and white hair, looking like a young man, wounded and bandaged. He is obviously a master of punching. Atoribashi Rojiro, with blonde curly hair and a black wavy neck suit, he looks like a medieval gentleman. They are all the current members of the masked army, Hiriko Shinji said. Of course, now there's one more you, Ichigo. Then Hiriko Shinji looked at the others and said, then Ichigo will join us. Do you have anything? Opinion? Opinion. Sarugaki Hiyori squatted down slightly and looked down at Ihu. Shinji, this guy wants to join. I don't have any opinion, but before joining, let me see the power of this guy. If there is power, if you want to join, there is no problem in joining, but if you don't have enough strength, who wants this guy? I don't want one of my comrades to hold back when fighting in the future. Hey, Hiyori. Hiriko Shinji said, this is not the time to do this. Hiriko Shinji said helplessly, and then Shihouin Yoruichi came out from behind Kurosaki Ichigo and said, what did you just say? Little Hiyori was shocked to see the people coming, not including Hiriko Shinji of course. You are. Shihouin Yoruichi, Chapter 104, The Trial of Sarugaki Hiyori. And Hiyori shouted loudly, and everyone in the Kamen army except Hiriko Shinji was very surprised by the arrival of Shihouin Yoruichi, and seeing this scene Shihouin Yoruichi was very funny, and then said, "Hayo-ri, what did you just say?" After speaking, he walked towards Hayo, and seeing this scene Hayo was very scared and stepped back. And the masked army people asked Hiriko Shinji why Shihouin Yoruichi came here, and when Hiriko Shinji saw that everyone was asking, unable to resist the pressure and had to say, "That's because Shihouin Yoruichi is Ichigo's friend," so hearing this, everyone was stunned, and then exclaimed, "It's not true." Sarugaki Hiyori, who was on the other side, also heard Hiriko Shinji's words, so he was surprised, and asked me, "Really?" Hearing her asking me instead of Shihouin Yoruichi, I had to nod. Seeing me nodding, Sarugaki Hiyori looked at Shihouin Yoruichi in surprise and said, "I didn't expect you to be an old cow eating young grass." Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji and the others knew they were going to suffer, and Shihouin Yoruichi's face turned black. Then he said gloomily, "Don't you regret it, Hiyori?" And then very quickly teleported to Sarugaki Hiyori, then looked at her and said, and Hiyori also regretted after saying it, but 26 it is said that the words have been said, and there is no way to take them back, so it doesn't matter in the day. But seeing Shihouin Yoruichi's terrifying appearance, Sarugaki Hiyori had no choice but to admit, "I said just now that you two are a perfect match." Shihouin Yoruichi is no longer angry after hearing this. Then he pointed the finger at me and said, "If you want to join, I have no opinion, but before joining, I still have that sentence to show me your power. If you have power, there is no problem in joining, but if you have power, there is no problem. If it's not enough, even Shihouin Yoruichi won't agree with me, because I don't want one of my comrades to hold back when fighting in the future." When Hiriko Shinji wanted to refute this, Kurosaki Ichigo stopped and said, "Shinji, isn't she right? No organization will take in people who are incompetent. Although we haven't really played against each other, I can feel that your strength is very strong, and they don't know enough about me, so even if you force me to join, they will have a grudge against me, which is not what I hope, so it is necessary for them to increase their understanding of me. Only in this way, they can treat me as a companion faster, and the best way to increase cognition is to fight." Shihouin Yoruichi snickered very funny when he heard this, because Kurosaki Ichigo's current strength is good, it's easy to destroy the Kamen Legion, so Shihouin Yoruichi thinks it's funny, even Shihouin Yoruichi can easily kill them now. And Hiriko Shinji was very puzzled when he saw Shihouin Yoruichi's chuckle, and came to the side and asked, "Why are you laughing? Yoruichi, your lover is going to lose." Shihouin Yoruichi didn't refute, but was very relaxed. Said, "Just watch it." Hiriko Shinji was even more curious when he saw this scene. On the other side, "It's good that you have this idea, but I like your words, that's good, as long as your strength is not too bad, then I will agree that you are my companion." Sarugaki Hiyori sees Ichigo smiled and said, "Don't waste time, come on, Kurosaki Ichigo, let me see how strong you are, don't let any water, otherwise, I will beat you hard." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo shrugged and said, "You have to be careful." After Kurosaki Ichigo finished speaking, Shunpo came to Hiyori and gave her a sword, and with the sound of clang, the blades in the hands of Ichigo and Hiyori met. At this moment, Ichigo saw that Hiyori's sword Zanpakuto's gauntlet is oval, with a pattern similar to a peach heart on the gauntlet. "Don't look at these. Feel the power coming from the knife, and watch." With a sudden bang, Hiyori directly I was picked up, and Ichigo didn't move at all. Hiyori was shocked to see this scene, and then Hiyori rushed towards me again. Chang chang chang, Ichigo and Hiyori, two Zanpakuto kept going. They collided, and I didn't move from my position at all, and Hiyori kept attacking me in a very tricky direction, and was blocked by me one by one. "Oh, this kid's strength is very strong, he can block all Hiyori's attacks so easily," Atoribashi Rojiro said, looking at the situation in front of him. "Idiot, didn't you see that Hiyori Kazumoto didn't use much strength? Not to mention Hollow, even Zanpakuto didn't liberate," Muguruma Kensai said. Advertisement, "So, I don't think Kurosaki is using much power," Hashijin said. With a sound of clang, Sarugaki Hiyori took a few steps back. In this case, the warm-up exercise is over. Sarugaki Hiyori looked at Ichigo and said, "Hey, you should also show your real strength." "When it's time to take it out, I'll take it out," Ichigo replied. "Really?" Sarugaki Hiyori replied. "But if you die, don't blame me." Sarugaki Hiyori's face began to have some white matter appearing. Hollow. Ichigo opened his eyes and looked at Sarugaki Hiyori, and it was very serious, and Shihouin Yoruichi also watched this scene very interestingly, and after sensing that Sarugaki Hiyori is now Ryotsu, he looked at us both with ease, fighting. Hiriko Shinji has been paying attention to Shihouin Yoruichi's expression. After seeing Hollow, she is still very relaxed and she knows that something is wrong, that is, Kurosaki Ichigo is very strong, and what Urahara Kazuki told him is fake. Thinking of this, Hiriko Shinji was very angry and then very helpless, but there was no other way, so I could only look at it and say it, because these are just Hiriko Shinji's conjectures. "Shinji, what's wrong?" Kuna Mashiro asked Hiriko Shinji's very strange expression, and Hiriko Shinji also recovered and said, "It's alright." After that, he looked at the battle inside, and Kuna Mashiro also looked strangely. It doesn't matter after a glance. Some white matter appeared on Sarugaki Hiyori's head, and then the white matter gradually took shape. A mask appeared on Sarugaki Hiyori's head. Sarugaki Hiyori stretched out his left hand and grabbed the mask on his head. Ichigo, if you still fight with me in the current state, then I will kill you. Sarugaki Hiyori pulled the mask on his head down, and the whole mask was completely exposed in front of Ichigo. There is a long horn at the upper end, that is, the position of the forehead, and there is a circle of diamond-like patterns under the position of the horn. Ichigo looked at Sarugaki Hiyori and took a fancy to the mask, and suddenly a powerful Ryotsu burst out from Sarugaki Hiyori's body. This Ryotsu is not Shinigami's power, it is obviously the Ryotsu after Sarugaki Hiyori Hollow. Ichigo feels it was very relaxed after that, and I became interested in seeing her ability to freely control Hollow. Chapter 105. Soul Society shock. Shihouin Yoruichi's ease made Hiriko Shinji very uneasy, but Hiriko Shinji didn't think too much. Ichigo was stunned for a moment, holding Tensei-Zangetsu in one hand and raising a little, Chang, Sarugaki Hiyori's slash was just held by Tensei-Zangetsu, and seeing this scene Sarugaki Hiyori's pupils shrank, and then Ichigo with a slight force, Sarugaki Hiyori was picked up, and with a boom, Sarugaki Hiyori directly knocked the ground out of a human-shaped pit, and the flying dust instantly covered Sarugaki Hiyori's figure. Is this the end? Ichigo looked at where the dust is spreading. Seeing this, Hiriko Shinji and So Came an Army were stunned, and Muguruma Kensei said, "How is this possible?" He was already stunned, and so everyone looked the same. Shihouin Yoruichi chuckled lightly when he saw this scene. When Hiriko Shinji and the others heard it, they looked at her directly and said, "Yoruichi, what's going on?" Seeing that they all wanted to understand, Shihouin Yoruichi had no choice but to say it. Ichigo, it's not that weak. His current strength can be said to surpass the commander-in-chief. Even Aizen can't be Ichigo's opponent now. Even if you don't need to learn Hollow, it's okay, but... Shihouin Yoruichi didn't say any more. Hiriko Shinji also recovered after hearing this, and then understood her words, and then looked at Ichigo's figure happily and said, "We may have pulled someone who can't afford it this time." And the mask all the members of the Legion have the same expression. Hoo-hoo. A sudden heavy breathing sounded into the ears of everyone present, and everyone focused their attention on the dust. Hiriko Shinji stretched out his hand for a while, and the dust in front of his eyes was swept away in an instant, and Sarugaki Hiyori appeared. In front of everyone, she was half kneeling on the ground, holding Zanpakuto in her left hand to support the ground. Her right hand was covering her left half of her face. Blood was constantly flowing out from her forehead. Sarugaki Hiyori's mask was very attractive to Ichigo, easily knocked out. "It's not bad, it's virtual," Ichigo said very easily, and in Sarugaki Hiyori's ears it was like mocking her, and when she was about to shoot, Hiriko Shinji appeared in front of her and said, "Okay. Hiyori, she was beaten, you can't beat her." Hearing this, Sarugaki Hiyori was very angry but said, "I haven't lost yet, let me continue." When there was more to say, Hiriko Shinji said directly, "Alright, we are not his opponent even if we go out in full force." Sarugaki Hiyori couldn't believe it, but she lowered her head when she saw Hiriko Shinji's eyes. "Ichigo, what do you want to do now?" Hiriko Shinji looked at me and said. Hearing this, I was very relaxed and said, "What else can I do? Of course, learning Hollow." Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji laughed, and the masked army has also put down the grudges in their hearts. And Sarugaki Hiyori didn't understand very much, and then he understood it under Hiriko Shinji's explanation, and then he was very angry and said, "I must beat Urahara Kazuki." And when they heard these words, people laughed. On the other side of Soul Society, a major event is happening, a major event that is enough to make Soul Society overwhelmed, and take all the energy of Soul Society. In the middle of the night, on the Hill of Bipolar, in the entire Jingling Court, in addition to the chief captain of the 13th Division who is also the captain of the 1st Division, Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni and the vice-captain Chojiro Sasaki were not there, and there was also the 11th Division. Captain Zaraki Kenpachi and vice-captain Kusajishi Yachiru don't know how to feel the battle, only the other 8 captains and other vice-captains are left. But the 11th team has Madarei Mikaku in the 3rd seat and Yasugawa in the 5th seat. Representative Yumachika, and the strange thing is that even Rukia Kuchiki was called over. You must know that although she is the adopted daughter of the Kuchiki family, she is currently an ordinary Shinigami without any seats, but anyway, they have a total of 20. The 2 of them are on the Hill of Bipolar, perhaps because the chief captain Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni has not yet appeared, so they are talking to each other. From their conversation, it seems that they were called up by the captain, Yamamoto Motoyuzai Shigekuni. Speaking of which, what happened? Hitsugaya Dashiro looked at Jashiro Yukitaki in front of him and whispered. To gather everyone here, if something really happened, I'm afraid it's not a trivial matter. With a slight pause, Hitsugaya Dashiro said, speaking of which, could it be that fellow Aizen? Probably not. No, I don't know either. Jashiro said, I've asked, but no one knows the purpose of this call, including the seniors of Harumi and Unoka. Oops, Kuchiki, you've been summoned too. Matsumoto Rangaku saw Rukia Kuchiki behind Jashiro and said with concern, your Ryotsu. Yes. Rukia nodded slightly. Thank you for your concern, my Ryotsu has fully recovered, and perhaps because Hōgyoku has been stored in my soul, I feel that after Ryotsu recovers, there is no weakening, and it's a small improvement. Damn, this fog is really annoying, Abarai Renji complained. A strange fog was filling the entire bipolar hill, gradually blocking everyone's sight, making everyone's visibility gradually reduced. Papa, footsteps sounded, and soon a figure appeared in front of everyone, but the fog around them made everyone only vaguely see the figure, but couldn't see who was coming. Everyone could only be on guard looked at the figure of this, Lee's, individual. Soon the figure came to the front of everyone. Because of the close distance, everyone could finally see the face of the person who came. When they saw that the person was the roar of Chojiro Sasaki, the vice captain of the first team, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Kira Izuru opened his mouth and said, Deputy Captain Sasaki, please, Chief Captain. Kira Izuru didn't finish his words, and with a bang, Chojiro Sasaki fell directly to the ground. Everyone was shocked and stepped forward, especially the Death Squad leader Unohana Retsu and Deputy Leader Katetsu Izan, who immediately checked the situation of Chojiro Sasaki. Seeing that Chojiro Sasaki was in the end, everyone was on guard, and at the same time, they put their hands on Zanpakuto, and they would immediately respond to other situations. It's just that they didn't find a figure standing here behind a group of people, because the fog blocked everything about this person. Chapter 106. Rukia Kuchiki arrives. And after Ichigo passed Sarugaki Hiyori's test, Hirako Shinji said, let's go straight to the second step with Ichigo's current strength. Hearing this, the other people in the masked army did not object, because seeing the strength of Ichigo, I felt that the first step was forgotten, so I started the second step directly. Ah, Ichigo said with a slight smile on his lips after being surprised for a moment. Is it like this from the beginning? It's okay. I will definitely learn how to control the emptiness in the shortest possible time. Okay, let me tell you the most important point first. Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo and said with a serious expression, if you want to learn Hollow, you must be in the state of Hollow, and in that state, Ichigo, all you have to remember is one sentence, don't be swallowed by Hollow, try to devour Hollow, only after you have swallowed Hollow can you learn to control Hollow. Devouring the void? Ichigo said softly. Remember, Ichigo? Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo and said, don't waver and don't give up under any circumstances, otherwise, you will only be swallowed up. Ichigo narrowed his eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and suddenly opened his eyes. Just as Ichigo opened his eyes suddenly, Hirako Shinji's lightning-like tentacles slashed heavily on Ichigo's neck. The huge force directly swept Ichigo out. With a bang, Ichigo slammed into the wall, and then fell down, but 453 was Ichigo himself, but he fainted a long time ago. When it was cut on Ichigo's neck, the enormous force made Ichigo faint. It was also because Ichigo didn't fight back against Hirako Shinji, otherwise he would have been hit back by Ichigo before he could touch Ichigo. Hashijin stepped forward to hug Ichigo and said, Captain Shinji, Kurosaki obviously doesn't have any defense against you. It's easy to stun him, but you're trying too hard. I'm sorry, I was too hard, Hirako Shinji said with a hint of embarrassment, and Shihouin Yoruichi came over and said, Shinji, after this training is over, prepare for Ichigo's attack. 35 Hearing this, Hirako Shinji was very worried, and immediately said with a whole expression, okay, let's go down there, let Ichigo hollow there so that it won't interfere with the world. Hirako Shinji stepped forward and opened a floor. A staircase appeared directly under the floor, and then the group of masked corps and Shihouin Yoruichi all walked into the passage. Then the vast underground space is revealed, and if Ichigo is awake, the underground space here is like the one under Urahara Kazuki's shop. Okay, let's get started, Hachi, let's set up the barrier. By the way, set up a bond for Ichigo, Hirako Shinji said directly, and then continued after a slight pause. Set up a triple barrier for Ichigo. Hashijin was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, yes, and then put Ichigo down, and then the mark in Hachigen's hand changed. Bakudo number 63 Chains and Chains. I saw a huge chain suddenly appear, and then wrap directly Ichigo's body, but he did not stop and continued to form a mark, the wall of iron sand. Monk-shaped tower, burning iron and shining, because of its firmness, it was silent in the end. Bakudo's 75 5-pillar iron guns. Boom! Sounded 5 times, and I saw 5 huge iron pillars appearing in the sky and smashing directly on the ground. On Ichigo's head and limbs, then Hashijin opened his hands, and with himself at the center, a huge pale golden enchantment appeared, wrapping him and Ichigo inside. At this moment, all the masked members present stopped the original movements in their hands for a moment, looked at Ichigo, self-examined Ichigo's face, and some white substances were gradually appearing. Advertisement, come out, little 8, Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo and said, Ichigo is about to hollow, we have done everything we can do, then it is up to Ichigo to see if he can live in his own spiritual world. Defeating the emptiness in the body will be the key, and everything must be unfolded at once. Kurosaki Ichigo, don't let everything down, or I will be a sinner in this world. And after Ichigo passed out, the virtual power in his body began to be difficult to control. But Ichigo's own consciousness has entered into his own spiritual world. This is the second time that Ichigo has come to his own spiritual world. On the other side, Arisawa Tatsuki suddenly frowned slightly. She looked at the sky and said, is this feeling like crossing the gate? In other words, is the Soul Society coming? CGBE. Thinking of this, Arisawa Tatsuki he jumped up suddenly and rushed towards the left front. A door appeared out of thin air in the sky. The door wanted to open on both sides, and then a figure fell out of the door. Rukia? Arisawa Tatsuki was stunned for a moment, then rushed over and caught Rukia, looking at Rukia's tightly closed eyes and the wound on his body. Ichigo frowned tightly. What happened? Rukia. Hello. Rukia, wake up, what's going on? Suddenly Arisawa Tatsuki felt a burst of cold air, and suddenly Ichigo hugged Rukia's body and disappeared in place. With a boom, I saw 4 cold air hit Arisawa where Tatsuki was standing before. Everything in that place was frozen. With a boom, Ichigo appeared in the air and looked at a beautiful lady who appeared in front of him. She was wearing a white long-sleeved kimono, with long snow-white hair and blue eyes, with a flower star-shaped hairpin on the upper right side of her head. She holds a samurai sword in her hand, but the whole sword, along with the blade and the gauntlet. The handle of the knife is all snow-white, with patterns on it, and a white ribbon is attached to the handle. From Ryotsu, I feel that this white knife is obviously a Zanpakuto. Give her to me. The woman looked at Arisawa Tatsuki, then pointed the knife at Rukia that Arisawa Tatsuki was holding. HMPH. Arisawa Tatsuki snorted coldly. I'm sorry, although I don't know who you are. But Rukia is my companion, and I won't give my companion to someone I don't know, especially since this person just didn't make a sound. Attack us. Really? The woman replied slightly. Then you will die with her. Said the woman dancing the white Zanpakuto in her hands, and saw a circle immediately appear under Arisawa Tatsuki's feet. The first time Mai Yubai. Arisawa Tatsuki was shocked. Shunpo used it again, and Arisawa Tatsuki's figure disappeared again in an instant, and just after that, within the circle, it seemed to be frozen from the sky and the earth, and then it broke. Fall. Arisawa Tatsuki squinted slightly at the woman in front of him. The woman smiled softly and did not speak. And Rukia in Arisawa Tatsuki's words said, it's my trick. You're awake, Rukia, Arisawa Tatsuki said, looking at Rukia in his arms. Well, Long Gui, this guy is Soda no Shirayuki. Rukia looked at the woman and said, she is my Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto? Ichigo was slightly taken aback and said, Rukia, have you reached the Bankai stage too? It would be nice if it was just like that. Rukia said with a wry smile. She is my Zanpakuto, but this time, she came to this world to kill me. The entire Soul Society, all Zanpakuto have all betrayed, and kept attacking the master. In that way, he wanted to put the master to death. I managed to escape with great difficulty, Rukia said, as if pulling the wound somewhere, let out a low groan, and then fainted. Apparently her injuries were not minor. Chapter 107. Battle, Zanpakuto's betrayal, how is this possible? Arisawa Tatsuki was slightly startled, and secretly said in his heart, damn, this is a big trouble. Although this technique was used in his heart, Arisawa Tatsuki still held the tinlay behind him and secretly said, no matter what, I won't let Rukia have an accident. Arisawa Tatsuki said, holding Rukia in his left hand and tinlay in his right. Come on, Soda no Shirayuki. Arisawa Tatsuki said and walked directly towards Soda no Shirayuki. Second dance White Ripple. Saw Soda no Shirayuki stab out 4 points with a knife, and countless ice crystals emerged from each point. And then Soda no Shirayuki waved Zanpakuto in his hand to Arisawa Tatsuki, and the 4 at 1 o'clock, there was a scrutiny of cold air, and then an ice crystal blasted directly towards Arisawa Tatsuki, and all the places where the ice crystal passed were frozen. Humph! Ichigo held Zangetsu in his right hand, raised it directly, and slashed down suddenly. Thunder punishment. On the silver-white edge of the sky thunder, there was a layer of thunder flowers on the edge of the blade, and a thunderbolt sent out from the blade and directly broke countless ice crystals, and the thunder punishment directly hit the as Soda no Shirayuki blasted away. The ice crystals were washed away, leaving only a huge gap in the ground, and the frozen vegetation along the way was directly shattered into pieces. Boom! Thunder punishment slammed into the ground, and even the entire ground was broken open, but it didn't hit the enemy, because Soda no Shirayuki suddenly dodged to the side when Arisawa Tatsuki used thunder punishment to dodge the attack just now. That attack. As expected of Shinigami's agent, the power he has is really powerful, even I can't match it, I'm afraid he is the only one who can. Soda no Shirayuki paused and said, however, although your power is strong, if you want to defeat me, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. And I don't have to fight you, it's not me who wants to fight you, we'll see you next time, my master. Soda no Shirayuki spread out slightly with a light blow from his hand, he saw countless tiny ice crystals attacking Arisawa Tatsuki. Arisawa Tatsuki jumped up and down, and suddenly ducked back. When Arisawa Tatsuki escaped the ice crystal and was about to attack again, he found Soda no Shirayuki. There is a door behind. After crossing the gate, Soda no Shirayuki walked into the gate, then turned his head to look at Ichigo and said, Arisawa Tatsuki, you will die under your Zanpakuto. Before he finished speaking, the gate of the crossing gate closed. Free. After watching Soda no Shirayuki leave, Arisawa Tatsuki frowned slightly and said, there are sheets of frost everywhere. Did Soda no Shirayuki's attack just freeze the surroundings? It looks like Rukia's Zanpakuto. This kind of use the ability completely surpasses Rukia, and only Soda no Shirayuki can do it to this level. Forget it, now is not the time to think about it. Arisawa Tatsuki hugged Rukia and said, let's go and treat Rukia first. And there's the matter of Zanpakuto, let's send Rukia to the Urahara store. I just don't know what's going on with the Soul Society. Thinking of this, Arisawa Tatsuki flew straight towards the Urahara store. Yo, Miss Arisawa, good evening. When Arisawa Tatsuki came to the Urahara store, Urahara Kazuki was already waiting. Also, how could Urahara Kazuki not notice the appearance of the piercing gate? Isn't this Miss Kuchiki? Urahara Kazuki looked at Rukia, who was holding Arisawa Tatsuki, and said, "It's been a long time, but it looks like I'm injured, and it's not serious. Do you need my help, Miss Arisawa?" Miss Arisawa threw Rukia directly to Urahara Kazuki and said, "Cure him, store manager Urahara. As for the treatment fee, isn't the Kuchiki family the head of the 4 nobles of the Soul Society? It shouldn't take a little advantage from you. The body is still Orihime's house. I will go back to my body first. I will come to explain later, but I don't know the specific situation. I am afraid that everything will only be known when Rukia wakes up." After speaking, Miss Arisawa directly fly away. But Urahara Kazuki shook his head helplessly when he saw the same figure of Miss Arisawa. "But Miss Arisawa, it's impossible for me to go to Soul Society to ask for money." Then he took Rukia into his arms helplessly. Inside the Urahara store. Advertisement on the other side, Ichigo was sealed by the triple Bakudo, and the whole body could not move at all, but at this time, some white substances began to appear on Ichigo's face. "Everyone is ready, it's time to start," Hiriko Shinji said with a glance. "Isn't there Hachi's barrier?" Sally Yahamaru said indifferently. "Under the current triple barrier, Kurosaki Ichigo shouldn't be able to break free so easily." "No, I don't think so," Hiriko Shinji said. "If I don't stop it, I believe the barrier will be broken soon." With a boom, I saw that the chain on Ichigo's body was directly broken by the huge Ryotsu on Ichigo's body, and even the 5-column iron rod began to shake. Much faster than I expected. Hiriko Shinji frowned slightly. "Cut. I thought I could finish reading this book." Sally Yahamaru put the magazine in her hand on the ground, walked to the interface and said, "Lil Hachi, open this place, I want to go in." "Yes," Hashijin replied, and then saw a small door open directly in front of Sally Yahamaru, and Sally Yahamaru walked into the barrier. Boom, bang, bang. As soon as Sally Yahamaru walked into the barrier, the 5-pillar iron gun shattered directly. Ichigo stood up and turned her head slightly to look at Sally Yahamaru. I saw that most of the mask on Ichigo's face had been formed, and only the position of the last left eye had not been formed. This time, Ichigo's hands and feet have become virtual bodies, which are no longer human hands and feet, but claws, virtual claws. And the mask of the remaining eye part is also slowly forming, but the speed is very slow. This is the last time for Ichigo to learn Hollow. If he cannot learn before the mask is fully formed, then Ichigo will become virtual. Of course that's not possible because Kurosaki Ichigo is not the Kurosaki Ichigo in the original book, so the current Ichigo has already wiped out the emptiness in his body, and in order not to make the masked army outside suspect, so he has to pretend to be no matter what. When Kurosaki Ichigo entered the spiritual world, there was no empty self at all, but there was a mass of empty power, so when Kurosaki Ichigo touched it, it directly entered Kurosaki Ichigo's body. So Kurosaki Ichigo's hollow is very simple, let others know that they are not envious of death, so Kurosaki Ichigo now lets his virtual instincts control his incomplete hollow to fight against the people from the Masked Legion. Advertisement outside, I'm Sally Yahamaru, although you already know my name, but this is my first self-introduction to you, please give me some advice. Sally Yahamaru took out Zanpakuto and pointed at Ichigo. Ho-ho. Ichigo raised the Tensa Zanjetsu in his hand and kept roaring in his mouth. Suddenly, Ichigo and Yahamaru Sally started at the same time and charged directly towards each other. With a dang, 2 knives the collision, the huge force bounced back. Ichigo stood there without even shaking his body, but Sally Yahamaru was directly knocked out by Ichigo, but this is just the beginning. At this time Ichigo will not have any, some people have only very vain instincts. So after Ichigo hit Yazumaru Sally, he immediately chased after Yazumaru Sally, and the Tensa Zanjetsu in his hand slashed directly without hesitation. Asking for flowers. Dang, Zanpakuto in Sally Yahamaru blocked Ichigo's slash again, but her entire body was slammed to the ground by a huge force. The entire ground sank directly into it. Tensa Zanjetsu in Ichigo's hands continued to cut. With a sound of dang, Ichigo's Zanjetsu slashed to the ground, Yahamaru Sally's hands turned and pressed on the ground, and her whole body stood upside down, so that Ichigo's Zanjetsu slashed beside her, and Yahamaru Sally was upside down. Instead of retreating immediately, she split her legs, and then her whole body spun directly. Sally Yahamaru, who was spinning at a high speed with bang bang bang, kept raising her foot on Ichigo's face, and Ichigo didn't react in time for a while, and then Sally Yahamaru's eyes suddenly froze, and she slapped the ground with both hands, her whole body vacated here, and then she slammed her foot on Ichigo's shoulder condescendingly. The huge force of the bang caused the ground under Ichigo's feet to collapse directly. Ichigo's feet sank deeply into the ground, and the expression on Sally Yahamaru's face froze for a moment, because Ichigo grabbed it with one foot. With his feet, with a boom, Ichigo directly grabbed Sally Yahamaru and smashed it to the ground. A human-shaped pothole was directly smashed into the ground. Damn! Sally Yahamaru roared, and put her left hand on her forehead, and suddenly a square mask appeared on Sally Yahamaru's face, with 4 corners on her head, chin and 2 sides of her face. On the side, the upper corners are slightly curved inward. There is no decoration on the mask, but there is a hollow cross, and the entire mask seems to have become 4 triangles. A pair of eyes appeared from the horizontal line of the cross. With a bang, Sally Yahamaru broke free from Ichigo's arm, and then kicked Ichigo's chest directly. Her strength directly caused Ichigo's body to retreat 2 steps. Sure enough, after Hollow, if nothing else, at least this power is several times stronger, otherwise, it would be impossible to knock back Ichigo, and just like the beginning, he would be knocked out. Hoo ho ho! Ichigo roared. Zangetsu in his hand kept looking at Yahamaru Sally. Ichigo's attack speed was not slow, and after Hollow, Ichigo's attack speed was much faster. Shoo shoo shoo! Arrow Sally Kuromaru stepped back a little, and all of Ichigo's attacks were in vain, but Sally Yasamaru's movements did not relax in the slightest. On the contrary, her body became more and more tense, and her whole body was in a state that could explode at any time. This is also because Kurosaki Ichigo put a lot of water, otherwise, the force of the Phantom can completely destroy the masked army. Otherwise you think that the strength of Shinigami is so strong, can it become so weak after Hollow? Of course, so everyone also I noticed this, especially Shihouin Yoruichi saw it at first sight, BU. Chapter 108. Analysis. Then Hiriko Shinji asked Hashijin to remove the enchantment and said, Ichigo, you actually learned how to Hollow, why didn't you say it earlier? Hearing this, Ichigo chuckled and said, of course I don't want to hit you. Said when the mask on Ichigo's body, bang, I saw Ichigo's face, the mask that had just been formed, suddenly collapsed at the moment when it was fully formed, and a huge crack appeared on the mask. The mask on Ichigo's face suddenly shattered, and at the same time, Ichigo's body was like the molding of a snake. The outer layer of Hollow's form fell off directly, and then the entire empty shell disappeared in the air. Seeing this scene Hiriko Shinji they were very surprised in MMP. Because when I was Hollow, it was a near-death experience, and Ichigo Hollow didn't take long to succeed. Sometimes people are more dead than others, and they have to be thrown away. Shihouin Yoruichi quickly came over to Ichigo and asked, are you alright? Seeing Shihouin Yoruichi's worried look, I hugged her, 463, and said, of course it's fine, how could I let myself be for you, I'm in danger. Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy to hear this, but Hiriko Shinji was very depressed when he saw our performance when we were making out and said, you should also look at the place to spread dog food. Listen, at this point, the two of us separated and said in a tacit understanding, single dogs have no right to speak. Hearing this gave him another crit. Then everyone in the masked army wanted to see Ichigo Hollow's mask, even Shihouin Yoruichi wanted to see it, so Ichigo raised his hand and put it on his head. A black Ryatsu formed in Ichigo's hand, then the whites of Ichigo's eyes were covered with black for a moment, and then Ichigo pulled down suddenly, and a mask appeared on Ichigo's face. This mask is the same bull-headed mask as the original, it looks very powerful, and everyone who saw the masked army here took a breath, because Ichigo, the Hollow level, and Ryatsu are several of them. 10 times, it was because the superiors suppressed the inferiors, so the emptiness in Kamen Legion was very afraid of the emptiness in Ichigo's body. Seeing this scene, Hiriko Shinji smiled and said, welcome to join, Ichigo. Then I extended my hand, and I took off the mask and held his hand and said, please advise me, all laughed. On the other side, what the hell happened? Rukia, Arisawa Tatsuki asked while looking at Rukia lying on the bed. Rukia sat up slightly, first looked at Orihime and said, thank you, Orihime. Orihime shook his head and said, it's nothing. It's just that your injury is very serious, I think it's better for you to rest well. Rukia nodded slightly, then looked around at the people around him, Urahara Kazuki, Arisawa Tatsuki and Inoue Orihime. Mr. Kurosaki, aren't you? Rukia asked them, and Arisawa Tatsuki said directly, we don't know where they are. Hearing this, Rukia sighed. Arisawa Tatsuki said with a slight pause. Rukia, now is not the time to talk about this. You haven't told me what happened, why are you injured, and what you said before you fell into a coma. Zanpakuto's mutiny attacked the master again. What's going on? Advertisement, I don't know the specifics, Rukia said. After Arankar attacked the world, the captain immediately called a meeting of the captains, and then prepared to enter the world for protection, but before entering the world, we suddenly received a message from the commander. The summoning of the captain, all the captains and vice-captains, and me were summoned to the bipolar hill. Just after we all gathered, the captain did not appear, but a man appeared in front of us. When he appeared, he made a rude remark, and also said that the commander-in-chief had been sealed by other rebellious Zanpakuto. Captain Komamura attacked him, but after Bankai, the king of Scourge attacked Captain Komamura, and he beat Captain Komamura to death. Then all of our Zanpakuto could not be liberated, and then our Zanpakuto materialized and appeared in front of us, then left us and walked to the man. At the same time, he launched an attack on the entire Jingling court. Then the man announced that there will be Zanpakuto dominating the Shinigami. Don't be fooled by the guy's words, if you parse everything, is it obvious that the man is the key to all this? Because his appearance was accompanied by Zanpakuto's mutiny, and from his words, it seems that he is the mastermind. Arisawa Tatsuki said, however, who is that man Rukia? I don't know. Rukia shook his head slightly and said, he seems to have appeared out of nowhere, but he calls himself Muramasa. Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki was very worried and said, Mr. Blackheart, do you know me? Seeing Arisawa Tatsuki asking himself, Urahara Kazuki was stunned and said, I don't know either, 99. Okay. Arisawa Tatsuki responded, but I'm afraid I need to enter the Soul Society to understand it. Hearing Urahara Kazuki here, He also responded, "Wait a minute. I'll contact Kurosaki. Sir, let's see if they're interested in this." Rukia was very happy to hear. "Please." It didn't take long for Yohabach to come back and say, "The Soul Society is in good shape, the only one being attacked is Sei Ling Tae. But it's okay for now. I contacted Jashiro, but Zanpakuto attacked the master and also there were some Zanpakuto who made troubles in the Quiet Hall, because all the captains and vice-captains were in Bipolar Hill. The Shinigami were not given orders, so they were easily defeated by Zanpakuto. But in Bipolar Hill, everyone was scattered after that, they found their respective squads instead. With the appearance of the captain and vice-captain, the Shinigami calmed down and responded to Zanpakuto's attack, but just as they were about to counterattack, all Zanpakuto disappeared as if they had never appeared. It's the same. As for other information, there's nothing more, but the Jingling Court was destroyed badly. Then I came back. Then the big brother has returned to the 6th Division, Rukia said anxiously. No, Yohabach shook his head slightly and said, I've seen all the captains and vice-captains, but only the captain-in-chief has not been seen. The entire Jingling Court can't find the figure of the captain-in-chief, not even Ryotsu. I can't feel it either, maybe he's been sealed as Muramasa said. As for Captain Kuchiki, his whereabouts are unknown just like the captain. Then big brother. Rukia said worriedly, Don't worry, Rukia. Arisawa Tatsuki said, That guy Byakuya won't die so easily, and this guy Muramasa actually summoned so many Zanpakuto, obviously, he must have some purpose and needs help, and Byakuya's Senbon Sakura's power is very strong. As a helper, the stronger the power, the better. Zanpakuto is shaped by the master based on his own soul. If the master dies, Zanpakuto will not die, but at least his vitality will be severely damaged. Well, and Zanpakuto and the master themselves depend on each other, just like me. If I lose Tinley, how much power do I have? And if I die, who does Tinley exist for? So if I were Muramasa, I would never let Senbon Sakura kill Byakuya. That's right. Yohabach nodded slightly and said, but the immediate priority should be to deal with Zanpakuto. Arankar has already appeared in this world. I'm afraid it won't be long before that guy from Aizen will completely control Hōgyoku. In a war, we must rely on the power of the Soul Society, so if we can't solve the Zanpakuto matter before then, I am afraid that by then, our chances of winning will be infinitely close to zero. Zanpakuto's betrayal took place in the Soul Society. If you want to solve it as soon as possible, you must enter the Soul Society. Arisawa Tatsuki said, Okay, then I will set off for the Soul Society as soon as the sun rises. Chapter 109. Shihouin Yoruichi Hollow Name. Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku. S**X. Male age, 15 spouse. Shihouin Yoruichi, soul. Potential. Unlimited Ryotsu. Super Captain, 22nd level 13,254 20,000ths. Zanpakuto. The perfect Zanjetsu, final solution, Kido. General. Shunpo. General White Hits. General Slash. General. Combat Experience. General Crescent Moon Sky Chong. General. Crackling Flash. General Advertisement No Moon. General. Hollow. LV1. 0/10. Backpack. Character Fragments X13254, Intermediate Express Beads X4000, Advanced Express Beads X3000, Super Express Beads X2000, Breakthrough Cards X69. Ichigo was very happy to see the current level interface, and because he got the power of Hollow, Ichigo's strength increased again, and after Ichigo raised the level of Hollow to the general level, Ichigo felt that the current strength was very helpless, because 26's strength has improved again. I don't know if Aizen Sosuke can handle it. After thinking about it, Ichigo looked at Shihouin Yoruichi next to him and said, Would you like to improve your strength? Shihouin Yoruichi was also very happy to hear this, because she didn't want to take off Ichigo's hind legs, so she nodded firmly. Seeing this, Ichigo even wanted to take the Hōgyoku from Aizen Sosuke's hands immediately, but he thought of something that a man used and wanted to use it on his own woman, so Ichigo refused, so he could only use it in the system. Check in the sign in interface. After clicking into the interface, Ichigo saw that there were a lot of gift bags that he had not received. Seeing here, Ichigo took all these things, and then opened them one by one in the backpack. After knowing that all the things came out, Ichigo both happy and helpless. There are experience beads of all levels, probably more than 10,000, and there are hundreds of breakthrough cards. The most exciting thing is that I really got a Hōgyoku and a hollow skill. And of course Shihouin Yoruichi saw it too, so he was very happy to follow Ichigo. Ichigo said, Now you can be like me, Yoruichi, I'm really happy. Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy to hear Ichigo's sincere words. He hugged me and said in my ear, There's a reward in the evening. I reacted when I heard this, and she pinched it and gave me a charming look. And the two of us walked leisurely like an ordinary couple after we came out from Hiriko Shinji and the others. Seeing Shihouin Yoruichi's eyes, I couldn't help but hug her as a princess and said, I'm thinking about it now. I want to teach you a lesson. And the hot air I exhaled made her face turn red, then she hugged my neck and said, Then you come. When I heard this, I was going to do FA on the spot, but I immediately put this impulsively. He pressed it down and said, Okay, you can use Hōgyoku and that skill first, and then talk about it. Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy to hear this and kissed me very well before using Hōgyoku, and after she used it. After that, the restrictions on those skill levels were also broken, and all skills entered the general level like Ichigo, and even Hollow's skills entered the general level, and even the strength was improved by one level. Immediately, she looked at her own attributes name. Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku. Gender. Female age. 143 spouse. Kurosaki Ichigo, soul. Potential. Unlimited Ryotsu. Super Captain. 22nd level 13,254 20,000ths. Advertisement Zanpakuto. Night Fist, Final Solution. Keto. General Shunpo. General White Hits. General. Slash. General Combat Experience. General Instant Open. General Level. Thor. General Hollow. General Backpack. Character Fragments X13254, Intermediate Experience Beads X14000, Advanced Experience Beads X13000, Super Experience Beads X12000, Breakthrough Cards X569. Seeing this scene, Shihouin Yoruichi was happy and Ichigo was also very happy for Shihouin Yoruichi. And why did Zanpakuto have no skills? That's because Shihouin Yoruichi put them all into the Thor battle body, and then I said, Yoruichi, you hollow and take a look, I want to see what kind of mask it looks like. Hearing this, Shihouin Yoruichi also put his hand on his head very cooperatively, a black Ryotsu formed in Shihouin Yoruichi's hand, and then Shihouin Yoruichi, the whites of Yoruichi's eyes were instantly covered with black, and then Shihouin Yoruichi pulled down suddenly, and a mask appeared on his face. I didn't have any emotional fluctuations when I saw this mask Ichigo, because this mask is very similar to Ichigo's mask, it's just a little feminine, but I'm happy again, because my women are all about the same ability as myself. Does it represent a natural pair of 463? Even Shihouin Yoruichi was very happy when he saw this mask. Then he hugged my arm and said, Ichigo, you also hollow, how about we take pictures together? I was stunned when I heard this, and Shihouin Yoruichi continued acting like a spoiled brat to me. I had to compromise hollow when I saw this scene. Then there are two Shinigami of hollow here and they're very narcissistic and take pictures here. And when Shihouin Yoruichi was shooting very vigorously, Urahara Kazuki came with a message, and when Shihouin Yoruichi heard it, he had to stop. Seeing this scene, Ichigo asked, what's wrong? Then Shihouin Yoruichi told Ichigo the matter and said, would you like to go? And Ichigo was thinking about something, because this scene was much different from the original, so let Ichigo. I am very worried that there will be things that Ichigo can't control, but I think that the revolt of Zanpakuto in the original book is also inserted from the middle, so Ichigo is not worried anymore. And Ichigo is most worried that these things have not been arranged by himself. I missed something interesting, so after Ichigo thought about it, he said, then let's go straight. Shihouin Yoruichi nodded after hearing this, then sent a message to Urahara Kazuki and followed Ichigo. Chapter 110. Re-entry to Soul Society in front of the Urahara store, Urahara Kazuki, Yoruichi, Ichigo, Rukia Kuchiki, Inoue Orihime, Arisawa Tatsuki, Sato Yasutora, Tessai Tsukabishi, Xiao Yu, Jinda were standing at the back door of the Urahara store. Arisawa Tatsuki took out the Shinigami proxy card and slammed it on with a bang on his chest. Arisawa Tatsuki's body was weak, and where the Shinigami-ized Ichigo was standing, Orihime lifted Arisawa's body and looked at the Shinigami-ized Arisawa Tatsuki and said, no matter what you look at. Several times, each time I think Long Gui who looks like this is the most handsome. Okay. Arisawa Tatsuki gently stroked Orihime's cheek and said, after I go to Soul Society, I will leave my body to you. As for my family, please help me deal with it. Orihime nodded slightly and said, yes, don't worry, leave it to me, Long Gui. Ichigo, do you need me to help you? Sato asked. Ichigo shook his head slightly and said, no, it's not needed for now, you should stay here and practice with the store manager Urahara. When you face Aizen in the near future, you will still need your strength, so you should work hard to improve your strength now. As for you, don't have to worry about other things. Well, I see. Sato nodded slightly, Mr. Kurosaki. Urahara Kazuki looked at Ichigo and said, this time, all Zanpakuto in the Soul Society have betrayed, but the Zanpakuto in this world did not betray. First of all, Mr. Kurosaki, your Zanpakuto Zanjetsu, and secondly, the one who replaced Miss Kuchiki Shinigami who came to protect the present world, Yoshinosuke Chetani, his Zanpakuto is not the same. Even some Shinigami guardians of other cities, their Zanpakuto has not changed in any way, so I think this mutation must be man-made. Yes, someone in the Soul Society did. Otherwise, this situation is impossible, Mr. Kurosaki. This time you and Yoruichi, Miss Kuchiki and Miss Arisawa go to Soul Society. You must find the answer. Only if you find the answer can be dealt with at the source. I know. Now, Ichigo said, what do you think I went to Soul Society? I went to Soul Society to solve Zanpakuto's mutiny as soon as possible. Only from the source is the fastest solution to all problems. Methods. That's good. Urahara Kazuki nodded slightly and then said hesitantly, speaking of which, Mr. Kurosaki, please be careful during this trip to the Soul Society. Although your Zanpakuto will not betray in this world, but if you enter the Soul Society, then not necessarily. I think you should know your Zanpakuto's ability better than anyone. Your Zanpakuto's power is too strong. Once there is a mutiny, it will be very bad for us. So, if your Zanpakuto has any mutation, please return to this world immediately. I see. Ichigo nodded slightly and said, I don't want to face my Zanpakuto more than anyone else. Not just because of their strength. But in my heart Ichigo was very relaxed, because Ichigo didn't believe he could put a soulless soul together. The Zanpakuto got it out, so Ichigo and Shihouin Yoruichi were very relaxed. Advertisement, okay, it's getting late, let's go first, it will take a lot of time to break the boundary. Yoruichi said. Rukia nodded slightly, then pulled out Zanpakuto, thrust it into the air, and gently as soon as he turned around, a door appeared out of nowhere in the air. Through the gate. Then a black butterfly flew out, revolved around the Rukia twice, and then flew back to the gate. Rukia and Arisawa Tatsuki immediately followed, and Ichigo and Yoruichi, two people followed behind Rukia quickly. When the four passed through the gate quickly closed. Watching Ichigo disappear into the gate, Urahara Kazuki glanced at him, then looked at Sato beside him and said, Tessai, take Mr. Sato to the underground training ground, and the training intensity is twice that of yesterday. Yes, the store manager, Tessai Tsukabishi responded, and before Sato could react, he grabbed Sato and ran towards the store. Although Sato is also known for his strength, facing Tessai Tsukabishi, he had no resistance at all. Yu Li, he could only let Tessai Tsukabishi drag himself into the shop. Inside the Soul Society Jingling Garden, because of the relationship between Rukia, Ichigo, Yoruichi and Arisawa Tatsuki, three people directly entered the Jingling Garden, but this time the Jingling Garden is not a good scene. Most of the surrounding buildings are destroyed, there are ruins everywhere. It looks like this time is really tricky. Arisawa Tatsuki glanced around and said, the entire Jingling Court has been forced to this point. Although it was because of Zanpakuto's sudden mutiny, all the Shinigami were caught off guard, but to be able to cause this situation, it seems that this time things are not easy. Okay, Long Gui, now is not the time to talk about this. Yoruichi said, Ichigo and I will go around to collect some information and see the situation of stealth maneuvers. You and Rukia should go to the 4th Division first. The whereabouts of the captain is unknown. Yunohana Retsu, as a Shinigami at the same time as the captain, has a lot of prestige among all the captains. Therefore, although the entire Jingling Court is not out of control, most of the orders are from Yunohana. It was decided by Captain Retsu, and many captains and vice-captains have to go to Yunohana Retsu for advice. So the 4th Division is now the same as the former 1st Division, and maybe they can meet other captains. Yeah. I see, Yoruichi. Arisawa Tatsuki nodded slightly. Then be careful yourself, although Zanpakuto suddenly disappeared, there is no guarantee that they will not appear again. Hey, you better protect yourselves, and even if you do meet Zanpakuto it's no big deal. You know I'm Shihouin Yoruichi called Flash Goddess, it's not that easy for those Zanpakuto to catch up with me yes, and Wang Hao, Ichigo's strength is not covered. Yoruichi responded slightly and then said, goodbye, and in a short moment, Yoruichi's figure disappeared. Arisawa Tatsuki shrugged slightly and said, okay, let's go, Rukia, let's go to the 4th Division first. Rukia nodded slightly, then Rukia hesitated for a while and said, Long Gui, I want to go to the 6th Division first. Arisawa Tatsuki nodded slightly and said, okay, then let's go to the 6th Division first, I just want to see that guy Byakuya, if he's too embarrassed, I won't let that guy go, thank you. Rukia said softly, and then the two of them walked towards the 6th Division, along the way. Come on, there are ruins everywhere, and the defense of the entire Jingling Court has almost completely disappeared, which means that the current Jingling Court is like the Soul Society. The Soul Society's authority has almost disappeared.